Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the City Council and Successor Agency to the San Fernando Development Agency regular meeting. And today is May the 3rd, and I call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Roll call, please, City Clerk.
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez. Currently absent. Councilmember Pacheco. Is currently absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
Present.
And Mayor Ballin.
Present. We do have a quorum. At this time, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez. Currently absent. Councilmember Pacheco. Also currently absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
Yes.
Mayor Ballin.
Yes. Motion passes. And now we are at presentations. The first
Mayor?
one, yes,
We need to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
you are so right. How did I miss that? Easy. Okay. City Clerk, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Would be honored to. Everyone, please rise. Right hand over your heart. I will begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And we've approved the agenda. So now we're at presentations. And the first one is a presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of May as Older Americans Month. Julian?
Yes, hello, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm going to give a quick history about the Older Americans Month, and then Juan Salas will make the presentation. Real quickly, in 1963, President Robert F. Kennedy and members of the National Council of Senior Citizens met to address the growing concerns of some 17 million older Americans aged 65 and over. At that time, 1/3 of all seniors lived in poverty, and there was very few programs available to help support them. This raised awareness of the problem facing seniors, and a proclamation was done to honor their services. So the very first proclamation done by President Kennedy was known as the May as Senior Citizens Month. Then in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson passed a more robust act. It was known as the Older Americans Act that helped provide some more services to address the needs of the seniors, and renamed the month as Older Americans Month. Now, the act provided various services, and it actually established a agency known as the Administration on Aging, which was able to provide funding to assist seniors, introduce the nutrition program, transportation, federal funded daycare centers, legal assistance, and other services that the seniors asked for in the initial meetings. Now, every president since Johnson has proclaimed May as Older Americans Month, where we honor the work and the contributions of our older population. They are involved in a lot of community events, volunteerism, event organizing, fundraising, being caregivers, and a lot more. So tonight, we follow the footsteps of every president since Kennedy to proclaim May at Older Americans Month. I'd like to introduce Juan Salas, the Community Services Supervisor, who will do the honor of making the presentation of the City Council's proclamation declaring May as Older Americans Month. Juan?
Good evening. I'll read the proclamation. Older Americans Month, May 2021, Communities of Strength. Whereas the City of San Fernando includes a growing number of older Americans who enrich our community through their diverse life experiences. Whereas San Fernando is committed to strengthening our community by connecting with and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and acknowledging their many valuable contributions to society. Whereas the City of San Fernando recognizes the importance of bringing together all generations and engaging in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being for the benefit of all. Whereas the City of San Fernando can enhance the lives of older Americans in our community by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, involving other adults in community events and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now, therefore, the San Fernando City Council does hereby proclaim May 2021 to be Older Americans Month, and we urge every resident to take time this month to recognize older adults and the people who serve them as essential and valuable members of our community. As a representative for the Older Americans Month, we have Maritza Duarte, the Las Palmas Club president, or the chair. And that's it.
Was you want to make-
Maritza, do you have a few words you'd like to say?
Maritza, si quiere hablar, este mes es el mes de americanos mayores. Y usted que está representando ahorita al Club Las Palmas, si quiere, tiene unas palabras que decir.
Discúlpame, pero no te escuché.
Que si tiene unas palabras que decir.
Oh, sí, discúlpame. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Maritza Duarte. Estoy aquí para darle las gracias en nombre de las personas de la tercera edad por el reconocimiento que nos están dando, por la aportación que lo que hemos hecho y lo seguiremos haciendo en nuestras posibilidades. Y estamos muy orgullosos, muy satisfechos de ello. Y al mismo tiempo le agradecemos al Concilio de la Ciudad de San Fernando por la ayuda que nos ha brindado en estos tiempos tan difíciles del COVID, manteniéndonos informados de las vacunaciones, centros de comida, salud y llamadas telefónicas. Gracias, Julián. Gracias al Concilio. ¿Y cómo están?
Good to see you. Very
Thank you.
kind.
Thank you, Maritza. And I just wanted to let everyone know that our interpreter had a last-minute family emergency tonight, so she won't be with us. So Juan, maybe if you could do us a favor and just give us a brief summary of Maritza's comments.
Yeah, so Maritza thanked the council, said thank you for providing all the support and help to all older Americans during this pandemic.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, Maritza. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, to work with you, to see your good work that you do for on behalf of the seniors. And I'm looking forward to the day we can all come together again and just enjoy each other's company.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you.
Okay, thank you.
I see you.
Our next presentation is a presentation of a proclamation declaring the week of May 2nd to May 8th, 2021 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week. Julia Fritz, City Clerk.
Thank
Come on,
you, Mayor.
Julia.
I'll actually read this to Julia so that
Thank you.
not awkward for
I wondered about that. Thank you.
So I'm going to read a proclamation for the 52nd Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, which is May 2nd, this week, May 2nd, 2021 through May 8th, 2021. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most important that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, the San Fernando City Council does hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd, 2021, to May 8th, 2021, to be the Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to San Fernando City Clerk Julia Fritz and to all professional municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. This is signed by the mayor and all city council members. So thank you. I don't know if you want to say anything, Julia.
Let me just get my preparation speech going. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mayor Ballin, and City Council members. I am truly honored to be a part of the municipal clerk's profession, and importantly, to be a part of the City of San Fernando family as your city clerk. So on behalf of all municipal city clerks, thank you for your recognition.
Thank you very much. So we'll just go around and see if anyone has anything they'd like to say. Councilmember Rodriguez.
I'm happy to join council in recognizing this month and recognizing city clerk. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Montanez.
Julia, thank you for all the professional work that you do, but also your smile and how wonderful and friendly you are to all of us and to the residents. And everybody that's, I know, putting in a lot of requests of you to minutes and letters and information that they want from the city. And I know it's a lot of work on you, but we deeply appreciate you and clearly the profession of all the city clerks that are keeping information, historical documents filed and ready and available for the public so that we all know what's happening to our city. So thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fritz, for all you do for us and for keeping us all together and informed and up. Without you, you are part of this glue that keeps us all together and lets this meeting take place as well by providing us with our agendas and our packets in a timely manner and receiving all the calls from our residents and responding to all the emails. You're very much appreciated. I want you to know that, and congrats. Thank you.
Well, Julia, I've enjoyed working with you from day one, and you had this big little giant welcome mat as soon as you walk through those doors, and there you were pretty much alone because of the pandemic. So if anyone could start a job at a new location during that crisis period of the pandemic and do as well as you've done, hats off to you. I really admire you. It's just been a real challenge, and you certainly have met the challenge, because starting a new job under those circumstances is just unbelievable. So thank you very much. I really appreciate all that you do and your directness and your honesty with us. That means a lot to me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ballin and council members.
Thank you. Decorum and order.
Excuse me, Mayor Ballin.
Yes. Did I miss something?
Well, actually, I just wanted to note that Councilmember Rodriguez arrived in our meeting at 6:03.
Okay, thank you. Decorum and order. City Attorney, are you going to read decorum and order?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is the decorum and order for the City of San Fernando. The City Council, elected by the public, must be free to discuss issues confronting the city in an orderly environment. Public members attending City Council meetings shall observe the same rules of order and decorum applicable to the City Council as set forth in the San Fernando Procedural Manual. Any person making impertinent, derogatory, or slanderous remarks, or who becomes boisterous while addressing the council or while attending the City Council meeting, may be removed from the room if the presiding officer so directs, the Sergeant of Arms, and such person may be barred from further audience before the City Council. That concludes the decorum reading, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And do we have any public comments on the phone? And I know we have some written public comments, City Clerk.
We do not, Mayor Ballin, we do not have any phone-in comments. However, we do, well, actually, I'm sorry, we do have a phone-in comment, and that is Mr. Tony Strickland. My apologies.
Thank you.
And
Mr.
if I-
Strickland?
Yeah, and if I can, Madam Mayor, do the introduction.
Please
Okay.
do.
So welcome, Senator Strickland. Today we hopefully would be able to adjourn in honor of former Senator Tony Strickland's father, Donald Keith Strickland, who was born in 1934. So in a few days at the end of the month, he was actually going to be celebrating his 87th birthday. He was born in Indiana, but the Stricklands moved out to California, and where better than the San Fernando Valley when you are moving out to California. Mr. Strickland grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and he had a lot of jobs while he lived in the valley, including a paper route down Sepulveda Boulevard. So right up the street, down Sepulveda Boulevard, he did the paper route on his horse. And he attended San Fernando Valley High School, which is what it was called back then. Served our country in the Navy. He served in the Army. He served in the Korean War. He served in Vietnam. He actually in Vietnam was awarded the Bronze Star for bravery, and rose within the Army to become Sergeant First Class. He also later on became a drill sergeant at Fort Ord Army Base, which many of you know, which is up in Monterey, California. And I think Senator Strickland can just tell you what it's like to grow up with a drill sergeant. But you know, Mr. Strickland really just was an incredible human being. Anybody that knew him would say he loved clearly his family, taught a lot of really strong values to his family, to his kids, his grandkids, had a long marriage with his wife, and loved our country. Someone who was literally willing to put his life on the line for our country. He worked till probably about 10 years ago. So here he was, you know, closer to 90, and he worked till about 10 years ago. And it's we're going to miss him, but I think we're proud of him to say another San Fernando veteran, incredible human being, you know, leaves a legacy. And I do think that one of the greatest legacy he lives is in his own son, who not only is, you know, an incredible human being, a statesman, but also like his father, a wonderful father to his kids. So, you know, I'd like to just introduce former Senator Tony Strickland, and then also, you know, give our condolences to you and a virtual hug. Lots of love from San Fernando to your family, and we will always remember your father.
Thank you, Cindy, Councilwoman. Those words just mean the world to me. And I can't thank you enough on behalf of me and my family for being willing to do this. My dad talks very highly of growing up in the San Fernando Valley, going to San Fernando Valley High. And actually on his 17th birthday, his dad had to sign a waiver for him to go to the Korean War. And then after he got done with the Korean War, he dropped out, went and re-enlisted in the Army. And as you mentioned, Bronze Star for heroism during the Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War. And when he got injured in the Vietnam War, he became a drill sergeant at Fort Ord Army Base, where I was born. And growing up as a kid, my friends used to call my home Strickland. Every minute I was late, I was granted a week. He brought discipline, but no one brought more joy and love and smiling and hard work. He's a true American hero, and I'm going to miss him dearly, but I can't thank you enough for honoring him in this way. He loved the San Fernando Valley. My grandparents, who have since obviously passed away, me growing up as a kid, I went into Granada Hills and San Fernando as a kid, and I just can't thank you enough. My dad loved San Fernando Valley High, and he loved it out there, and I will miss him, but the bottom line is my family can't thank you enough, and the city enough, for giving us this honor for a true American hero, my father, Sergeant First Class Donald Strickland. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And at the end of the meeting, Councilmember Montanez will definitely close in memory of your and the city council will close in memory of your father. I'd like to say that more than likely he knew my brother-in-law, who was a career Army person, drill sergeant, and they're about my brother-in-law's in his 80s, so I'm pretty sure they crossed paths in the Army. Yes.
I'm pretty sure they did. Absolutely.
And my brother-in-law has 4 children, so I got to see firsthand what it's like to be a child of a drill sergeant. Kind of glad I wasn't. So thank you for joining us today, and all of our condolences to you and your family.
Thank you. It means the world to me and my family. And again, thank you. Thanks to everybody on the board. And Cindy is a special friend. Councilwoman is a special friend, and I really appreciate you being willing to do that for my father.
Thank you so
We have
much.
the greatest respect for veterans people from San Fernando. So
thank you.
You know, again, our hearts are with you. And I had not heard the strict land. That's pretty funny.
It's true. You remember, that's why I was always early everywhere I went.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. If I'm 10 minutes early, I'm 5 minutes late. So that's the way I was raised. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. I know you have a long agenda, and honored that I was a small part. My dad was a small part of the agenda, and I really appreciate it for taking the time.
We're actually honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so City Clerk, you're going to continue on with public comments?
Yes, I am. And Mayor Ballin and City Council members, there are 2 written comments submitted. The first one being, dear City Council, there are 2 items I would like to address. One would be a short-term goal and the second a long-term goal. 1, as business owners in the San Fernando Mall, we would like you to consider the Veteran Banner Program to be showcased in our downtown mall. In addition, the ones that are currently on McClay, I am addressing this now to give you ample time to consider this before Veterans Day. And number 2, 2 gateway signs, one on San Fernando Mission and San Fernando Road, and the other on San Fernando Road and Brand. This gateway sign would help enhance visibility and promote our historic downtown. It could read something like, "Welcome to historic downtown San Fernando." Thank you for your consideration. This is from Marco Solis. And the second public comment reading is, please consider tabling agenda item 5 so that we, the constituents, can hear more about it. We would like to avoid a situation in which city management feels pressure to select staff they may not, they may not be comfortable with. The people deserve a staff selection process free of politics. The City Council likes to discuss the community and community input, but runs the risk of selecting staff based on creating alliances rather than serving our constituency. It seems as though lately fewer and fewer residents of San Fernando are being chosen for positions. We already have a lobbyist from Orange County as our Metropolitan Water District Board member. Can we not turn over every function of our government to lobbyists, special interests, and politicians? We had the big dilemma with the City Council hiring and then firing the police chiefs in the past. I'm still not sure which way I feel about that agenda item 5, but I would definitely like to hear a presentation about why this item has been placed on the agenda and then give the community the opportunity to comment on it first. Essentially, I am asking my City Council to be consistent in hearing out the community before making major changes to the way our city functions and is represented. And this is from Residents for a Better San Fernando. And that concludes written statements submitted this evening.
Okay, and I did ask the city attorney if groups can send in the public comment, and he said absolutely so. If there's any groups out there that would like to submit public comments in the future, just know you're free to do so. And next, the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Would anyone like to pull an item on the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second? I will second.
Yeah, a second.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, he is absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
Mayor Ballin.
Yes. Turn that phone off. Okay. Motion passes. And now we are at administrative reports, item 5. And discussion and presentation of procedures for recruiting department head positions. And city manager, would you like to give that report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I will be providing the report tonight, or the presentation tonight, on the procedures for recruiting department head positions. In July of 2013, City Council amended the San Fernando Municipal Code to change the administrative structure from a city administrator form of government to a city manager form of government. To paraphrase sort of a few of the powers and duties of the city manager, the full section is printed in your agenda report, but I won't go through all of that. But the city code does say the city manager shall be the administrative head of the government of the city under the direction and control of the city council, except as otherwise provided in this division. The city manager shall be responsible for the efficient administration of all affairs of the city, which are under his or her control. So general powers are listed in the code, in 2 of which that are applicable to the discussion tonight. 1 is to appoint, remove, promote, and demote any and all officers and employees of the city, including city department heads, except elected officers and the city attorney, subject to all applicable personnel rules and regulations which may be adopted by city council. And also control, order, and give direction to all department heads who are subject to his or her appointment and removal authority, and to subordinate officers and employees of the city under his or her jurisdiction through their department heads. The city code also sets forth the policy and procedure for the city manager to follow when appointing department heads. Again, the full code is printed in your agenda. I'll just highlight a few pertinent sections. Section D, it is the responsibility of the city manager to ensure that all applicants are treated fairly and to ensure that the procedures outlined herein are followed. City manager shall be responsible for initiating department head recruitment. Upon the city manager's initiation of recruitment for department head, he or she shall use all available, timely, and cost-effective means of recruiting qualified applicants, including the advertisement of a job announcement for the open position for a period of at least 10 days through newspapers, trade publications, and other media that the city manager may deem appropriate. Minimum qualifications shall be described in job announcements for each position as advertised and shall be established by the city manager in consultation with the human resources director or designee. Applicants need to be screened within 60 days of the final, once applicants are determined to meet minimum requirements, and then within 30 days after the screening, the city manager shall conduct interviews of at least the top 5 candidates that are determined to be best qualified, and shall, in his or her sole discretion, appoint the successful candidate. The city manager may select a candidate from among the initial 5 persons interviewed, but reserves the right to interview others from the pool of persons who have submitted employment applications, and may select a candidate from such other persons interviewed. I should mention that the section K does say the city council reserves the right to adopt additional policies for the recruitment and compensation of executive and management employees. Specific to the existing department head recruitment we have currently pending, the Director of Community Development. On March 22nd, my office updated the job announcement for Director of Community Development. That job announcement is included as attachment A in the in the agenda packet. On March 25th, that job announcement was posted to the city website. Also during the recruitment period, which was basically between March 25th and April 23rd, when the first application submittal deadline was identified. But obviously most of this happened toward the beginning of the recruitment cycle. The job announcement was published in the following places. We published it in the Jobs Available government employment publication, Western Cities Magazine, the online version, the International City Managers Association, the International City Managers Association California Consortium, ICMA, that's the International City Managers Association. They have a Women Leading Government group. We specifically posted it and targeted that group. American Planners Association, we posted it in the national chapter. We posted it with the Los Angeles chapter, and we posted it, the APA has a Women in Planning group. They have both a LinkedIn and a, can you still hear me? I'm sorry, my Zoom says I got signed up. Okay. They have a LinkedIn group and a Facebook group. So the job announcement was posted to both groups of the APA, Women in Planning. We posted it generally in LinkedIn. We posted it with the Municipal Management Association of Southern California, MMASC, and it was emailed around to all the human resource departments at LA area cities. And then the first application submittal deadline was April 23rd, 2021, at which time we received six applications from qualified individuals. Now the next step, so those are the first 4 steps that are indicated in your staff report. Those have been completed. The next steps in the process, we typically have a technical ability rating panel interview. That's usually non-city staff that do have a technical knowledge in the field. The purpose of that is to rate the technical capabilities of any applicants. From that, the next interview is typically with executive management staff. So myself and the other department heads would interview the top candidates. If necessary, would have a third interview just with myself to sort of further narrow down the candidates. After that final interview, typically we would have a conditional if there was someone that I would be interested in appointing. We would have to give that person a conditional offer of employment, which is the law now. Before you do any background check on an applicant, you do have to have a conditional offer of employment for that individual. Assuming that person passed the background reference check and the pre-employment physical, then there would be a final offer of employment, and then obviously we would onboard that person and have a new employee orientation. So that's the typical process that we go through for department head recruitment. Currently, the city manager keeps the city council apprised of the status of department head recruitments through regular communication of milestones, such as when the job announcement is posted, number of qualified applicants that are received by the submittal deadline. I would notify council of any timeline extensions in the process. And then I would notify city council of a final offer of employment once a selection has been made by the city manager. Since transitioning to the city manager form of government in July of 2013, the city council has not had a role in hiring of staff subordinate to the city manager. And the city code does not expressly authorize the city council to be directly involved in the process of selecting and appointing department heads. It does allow, obviously, city council though to make policies related to that, to the hiring of department heads. City council has requested additional information regarding some various potential options for increasing the involvement, city council's involvement in executive management recruitment. In your packet, 4 different options have been outlined. One option is basically maintaining the existing procedure for appointing department heads. That would be, so option 1 is basically continuing with what the process that we've been using since 2013. Option 2 would be that the city council provides verbal feedback to the city manager. Typically that's done as part of a performance evaluation. And that feedback would typically be about technical skills, work experience, personal characteristics, and other desirable attributes that city council would like to see in a new department head. Any input received from city council would be considered by the city manager prior to making an appointment. The third option is a little bit, gives a little bit more input by city council in the form of a survey, a written survey. The city manager, I could provide a survey with a number of questions and open-ended questions to receive feedback from all 5 city council members. Just as a sample, I've included a few sample survey questions as attachment B in the packet. Again, the survey results would be considered by the city manager prior to making an appointment. The fourth option would be the most direct involvement by city council in the recruitment process. And that would be after the technical rating panel and initial review of city executive staff. City council may appoint an ad hoc committee of no more than 2 city council members to meet with the top 3 candidates. I would like to point out that since city council is not the appointing body, going the ad hoc route would only allow 2 council members to provide input. So all 5 council members would not be able to provide input and feedback related to the recruitment of the department head. The ad hoc committee's recommendation. So the ad hoc committee could be involved in the interview process. The ad hoc recommendation would be considered by the city manager prior to making an appointment. I would also like to note that this position would require staff to develop a policy that clearly describes the procedures for the ad hoc committee meetings or interview, including but not limited to suitable questions, appropriate access to applicant information, non-disclosure language, and various rating sheet scoring considerations. There are a myriad of personnel rules and state laws related to recruiting and personal information of applicants that the policy would need to clearly identify and make sure that any council members the 2 council members that might be on that ad hoc followed those procedures. I would say, clearly if an employee of the city violates any of those procedures or personnel rules, they would be subject to discipline up to and including termination. However, obviously it's much harder to hold an elected official accountable for violating any personnel rules. So, although we would have a policy, there is not, it's a lot more difficult to have an elected official be held to that standard of not violating any of those personnel rules. And then the other potential that I would like to point out with option 4 is that it really does have the potential for politicizing staff appointments in the long run. 2 of the 5 council members would have that ability. And really, in July of 2013, when council adopted the city manager form of government over the city administrator form of government, that was a step away from politicizing staff appointments. So, having an ad hoc would kind of take us back in that direction of giving city council more control over the hiring of staff subordinate to the city manager. So, in sum, basically that staff recommends that city council review and discuss the current procedures for recruiting department head positions, and then provide direction as appropriate.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only comments at this point, because I think this will be a good open discussion with council, is that I would like to see an additional option to be considered. I think that, between asking for our feedback through a formal survey and us being so heavily hands-on involved, I think we could just increase transparency about the process a little bit more, which I think satisfies the desire of us to be more included and understand how a selection is being made without interfering with the selection. And the examples I would use are, if you're soliciting our feedback through the survey, it would be great for us to see how you then incorporate our feedback. How does it get included in the like technical ability score sheet. If we're interested in weighing one skill over another, and we all as a majority agree on what sort of skill it should be, then we get to see how it was actually used in evaluating the candidates. And then as a result of that, I know I would be interested in seeing the results of like those rating sheets from the technical ability panel. So then it's clear, right? Who were the people on the panel? It's almost like a blind review. How did they see these things weighing, especially when it came into consideration of what the council was looking for the city? And then of course, leaving all of the decision-making to the way the system has been set up, where you do still select the top candidates and you all go through the normal process. But for me, I think at least increasing transparency is a good step at this point, since we're considering getting more involved. And I think it's a good test to see if that helps increase the confidence of council before any greater, changes are made to our protocol. And that concludes my comments for now, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Montanez.
Okay, thank you. We're talking about appointing the process for appointing, or not appointing, of hiring the community development director, right? So the community development director oversees planning, code enforcement, economic development, home preservation, business loans. So it's a position that is without a doubt one of the most important positions in the city. Residents, business owners, visitors, we are all directly impacted by that. And I believe that it is important to have San Fernando residents and the council involved in the selection of such a critical position, because it impacts us in such a direct way. If we continue with a process of only the city manager making the decision of who gets hired for that position, then it leaves our voice out of the picture. And we as council members were elected to represent the residents, the business owners, the stakeholders of the city of San Fernando. And we have a really good understanding, because as I think everybody has said, we've been in this town for 5 generations, 4 generations, 3 generations, at least 30 years, if not more, for all of us. So we bring a perspective as council members that I think is very critical in selecting the leadership team of our city. And we're a team, we work together. I don't think it's ever healthy for one person to make the hiring or the firing decision of such a critical position that impacts the entire community. I think it should be a collaborative process. I think that we should have direct input into the process in order for us to select the right person. And I don't see any issues whatsoever with the council being involved in the hiring of city manager and the department directors. It's legal, it's possible. There's nothing in the code that says the city council cannot be involved, even under the city manager form of government. So, so I actually think it's a good idea. I know I, for one, would accept my responsibility as a council member to be involved in the management of the city and to ensure the best management that we possibly can for the city. And that means being a partner to the city manager and a partner to other people in helping recruit and attract the right candidates for this position. The council not being involved, it makes me a little bit concerned. And because in the technical committee that is hired, is there anyone from that technical committee, Nick, that lives in the city of San Fernando?
Typically, it's people that are in the professional field of community development, meaning work for other cities and understand exactly, all of the laws that all municipal workers are sort of held to and standards. So if there are any professionals that live in the city of San Fernando that are at a level that that know that, I would definitely welcome them to be on, the technical committee. I am not aware of any, but that could certainly be, that certainly could be a part of the technical rating panel.
Okay, so we wouldn't have anybody that lives in the city of San Fernando in the technical advisory panel. So thank you for that honest answer. Is there anybody in our directors? Do any of our directors live in the city of San Fernando?
I almost say I live in the city of San Fernando because I spend about 80 hours a week here. I don't believe we do have any department heads that do live in the city of San Fernando. They do spend a significant amount of their time here, and San Fernando is part of how they make their livelihood. So I would to a person on the management team say that they all care very deeply about the future of this community. But none of them do live in San Fernando.
Okay, so is there anyone that would actually be reviewing the applications and interviewing and involved in the hiring that lives in the city of San Fernando?
No.
Okay, so that's the concern. That's the role of the council members, right? We get elected to represent the needs and the interests of the people and the businesses in the city of San Fernando. I, for one, take that responsibility very seriously. And although, I respect the professionals that are hired on in the city, I do believe that we as a council have a responsibility to be involved in making sure that we attract the greatest talent we can for such a critical position. Again, this has to do with homes, economic development, code enforcement, permits, things that are things that we hear about from community members everywhere. The other issue, and I think it leads to greater stability. So 8 years, so July 2013 is when we changed to a city manager form of government. How many city managers have we had in 8 years?
I believe I'm the third.
Okay, so since 2008, we've had 3 city managers. How many community development directors have we had since 2013?
2.
How many? This would be the third, okay. How many public works directors have we had since 2013?
I believe we've had Matt is our third permanent city public works director.
Okay, how many directors of finance have we had since 2013?
2. Diego's our second.
How many directors of our parks have we had since 2013?
Also 2.
Okay, and our chief of police?
I believe 2. I believe
Good.
2.
Okay, so we've had, let's do the math, 3 city managers, right? 3 community development directors, 3 public works directors. We have had 2 Department of Finance. We have had 2 chief of police and 2 parks directors. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Does that total to 15?
So I wasn't doing the math in my head, but I will trust that that's correct.
So I have a concern with the incredible instability when we don't have a team of people that are working together to hire these top positions.
Yeah, and I would, sorry, I would just add to that I don't think that speaks at all to the effectiveness of the individuals in those. I mean, someone could be very effective and get a lot.
I agree.
4 years.
People just the stability. So we're looking at stability. We're a very small city. We don't want to be a place where people come and they leave because they're just getting job training. They may have never done these positions before and they're going to get a job and they're going to leave. The people that I feel know how to gauge like real interest in the city are those of us that live here, those of us that work here, those of us that are stakeholders, and the people that are elected to represent those voices are the city council members. So in 9 years to have 15 directors and the city manager alone 3, I mean, we could have the numbers if we want to pull the numbers for 8 years before. Why don't we do that? I don't know if you have those numbers, but what were the numbers 8 years prior to 2013? Maybe we could have our personnel department pull that. And I would argue even the 8 years prior to that. So the 20 years before, what was it like? The instability that has been created because we have not opened ourselves up to say, let's work together. Let's go. You lose nothing. The city manager loses nothing. You only gain by bringing the council in as your partner. You only gain by bringing the community in as your partner. The politicizing, the confidentiality, all of us are professionals. I've been around for a very long time, as has everybody else. I'm like the newest member, Celeste and I are the newest members on the council. The council members have been there. I trust my colleagues to be able to maintain confidentiality, to be professionals, to be respectful, to not put the city in any legal predicament. And I also trust the council to be able to represent and be at the table so that we don't have 15 key positions in the next 8 years. So I would argue, in order for the city to actually do a better job in attracting and retaining and ensuring that we're hiring people that are going to stay with us, that we have the council involved. Now, of all those key positions, how many of them were women? Of the 15 people that came are here, how many of those were women?
I do not believe this is off the top of my head. I don't believe we've had any women department heads in that time period.
Would anybody disagree? That has been here for 8 years.
I think we had one as the finance director in an acting capacity, as well as we had one woman that we were going to offer one of the department head positions to, but we just didn't pay enough.
Sorry, actually, I'm sorry, Julia. we've had
You're
Julia,
right.
and then we've also we've had interims that have been female.
Right, we have.
Okay, but we haven't had any permanent directors, 0, that have been women acting. Julia, but I intentionally left the city clerk out of the directors, right? You know, the city clerk.
But she is a director.
Right. No, but the city clerk's position in terms of, you know, the public services, right? Public works, city community development. But we definitely could include the city clerk, right? So if you basically of the 15 key positions that we're talking about, 0 have been women. In 8 years, we have had 15 directors and we've had 0 women.
And that's one of the reasons
and that's why I think that as a council member elected by the people in the city of San Fernando, it's important for the council to bring a perspective that has not been at the table. In order for us to truly have leadership in the city that reflects the community and that we bring about stability. 15 is unacceptable because we hurt as residents. We hurt as business owners. We hurt as stakeholders that are trying to come into the city. And ultimately, we all as residents hurt because we don't keep the business of the city going with the consistency that it has. Because in 8 years, there's been 15 directors. So my offer, and I offer my time, my experience to help, to be a partner to our city manager, to help in the recruitment of a top community development director. So that more of us from the city of San Fernando, again, in 8 years, we have had 15 directors, we have had 0 women, and right now we have set up a process to have 0 people from the city of San Fernando be involved in hiring the community development director, which is one of the most important positions that impacts all of our lives. So yes, I do support giving a voice to the people of San Fernando. And I do support council members being responsible as we are professionals, executives, and being able to, as executives of the city, hire the leadership team of the city. So I would support council members being directly involved in the hiring, the recruitment of the next community development director. And I don't believe that we should give up our voice. And we all are different. Some council members, like me, tend to be more vocal and ask a lot of questions, and I like to contribute. Some council members feel more comfortable delegating their authority to the city manager and always following the direction of the city manager. That's okay. You have a voice there. Council members like me would like to have a voice and not my voice and the interest of the residents not be taken away. For those of you that are going to always support the city manager, you have a seat at the table. I would like to have a seat at the table as a council member that was elected by the city of San Fernando, because again, the process that has been set up does not include a single person from the city of San Fernando.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, our city code does not allow council members to be directly involved in the process of selecting and appointing department heads.
Excuse me,
I need to finish.
and I'll come
Right,
back
but
to you.
that's true, and the city
Vice-
attorney should correct misstatements.
Councilmember Montanez, can we let her complete her?
Yes,
what
but
she
I
wants
also
to
would
say,
like the
and
city attorney
You
to
can,
correct misstatements.
he can respond after she completes her statement. Okay, go ahead,
There's
Vice Mayor.
in the code that prohibits.
Vice Mayor,
being involved.
continue.
By involving city council in the selection process, we would be micromanaging the city manager, who is fully capable of conducting interviews and hiring staff. Consistency in the interview process is important and brings favorable results in the long run. And in order for this to be a fair selection process, I strongly believe it would be best for Mr. Kimball and the interviewing committee to make that selection. Mr. Kimball has done a great job in managing the city and the finances. We have a surplus, remember that. He particularly has done an exceptional job during the pandemic. I feel that he has the integrity and the capability to ensure that the best qualified person is hired. I have full confidence in his ability in conducting interviews and selecting the next city planner. I've worked at Los Angeles Mission College Financial Aid Office for 33 years and have interviewing experience and hired all the staff from my department. In addition, I would periodically be asked to participate in interviews outside of my department. Through that experience, I found that consistency and a set standard was vital to the interview process and provided the most consistent results. Setting a new standard under the city manager form of government by having council members participate in hiring department heads would politicize the procedure, which could potentially circumvent the process and place loyalties to council members rather than to the city as a whole. And as I've stated before, the city code does not allow council members to be directly involved in the process in selecting and appointing department heads. And I also believe that we currently have a reliable process that could bring consistent results without politicizing the process. So that's all I have for right now.
Okay, Councilmember Montanez.
Okay, again, the question to the city attorney, is it in the code where it says that under a city manager form of government, a city council cannot be involved in the hiring of directors?
Under the current code, there is no place for council members to be involved directly.
Okay, that wasn't the question. The question is it prohibited?
Am I allowed to finish my question?
Yes, but the question is, I want you to answer the question. The question is, does the code prohibit city council members from being involved in the hiring of directors?
Because
Okay, well, Richard, we're going to allow you to answer the question without interruption. Continue.
it is prohibited under the code because the code does not expressly provide for direct involvement in the selection of subordinates of the city manager. So it is prohibited in that sense. Under the law, state law, the council, and under the code itself, the council, if it decides to take the affirmative step of creating a policy that carves out some expanded role for the city council, could conceivably create some role for it. Although, as I've mentioned before, that does sort of start to erode and undercut the very foundations of having that form of government. I will simply just say this. I think, Nick is accountable to you. He is absolutely accountable to you as I am directly accountable to you. So the notion that if you're not in favor of being directly involved, you somehow don't care or you're somehow not doing your job, I think is a bit of a false statement and a little bit of a reach and perhaps a little bit insulting to those who are here. But if it is the prerogative of the council to carve some role out for it, I think it needs to be part of some sort of consistent policy that's adopted, and B, perhaps something that needs to be discussed at the community level on a wider basis, because it does start to get to the foundations of the kind of form of government the city wants.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. Can you please read me the code section where it says the council members are not allowed to, or prohibited from being part of hiring directors?
As I stated previously, the code does not expressly provide that the council has a role in the decision-making process. If your purpose in the question is for me to say that there is something in the code that says thou shalt not be involved, there is no such thing. However, the fact that there is no provision for that in the code is indication that the council, at least as it's presently organized, did not create a role for itself in the hiring of subordinates. Now, it could change that decision, and that's certainly something that the council could study as an issue, perhaps at a future goal-setting meeting if it so chooses. It sounds like there's an appetite for that, but that's my answer to the question, and I hope it's satisfactory. If not, I guess.
Okay, so thank you for saying that there is nothing in the code that says prohibits. Okay, as you said, there is nothing in the code that prohibits the council for being involved in the hiring of directors. Okay, so does the Olivares Law Group, do you believe that anything that is not explicitly written in law is prohibited? Is that your interpretation?
In this instance, I would say yes, because the statutes that govern the formation of the city manager form of government only identify one other office besides the city manager for which the city council could potentially have a role in hiring, and that is for the chief of police. The council, if it so chose, could hire a chief, but it would have to obviously modify its form of government. I think this council has considered this at various times. The statute itself does not have any provision that says that there can be essentially an a la carte of other offices. If that had been the intent under the statute, it would have enumerated those other offices as being offices that could be directly hired by the city council. It does not. It only identifies the city manager and the chief of police, and of course, implicitly, the city attorney. So I guess to get at the heart of your question, and I am sorry that I'm not giving a satisfactory answer for everyone, but at the end of the day, I would simply say this: if it is the desire of this council to be involved in the selection of subordinate employees of the city manager, it is recommended that it do so by the adoption of a policy that states that, which may have to come part and parcel with a discussion about whether or not the city council wants to even preserve the city manager form of government at all, which is a legitimate discussion. I mean, obviously there are different reasonable people can differ about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay, so basically the Olivares Law Group will say that it is not the case that if something is not explicitly prohibited in the code.
In the interest, because you're using my firm's name and I don't want to besmirch the reputation of other attorneys.
Well, we hired Olivares.
You may not share my opinion, but that is certainly.
They may not share your opinion. Did you just say that Rick Olivares may have a different perspective?
I say that only because I'm not a mind reader and I don't purport to know what Rick Olivares.
Okay, so I agree with you that reasonable minds, intelligent minds, attorneys will have different interpretation. You are actually interpreting something that is not explicitly written in the code.
Right.
Is that correct?
I have given my position on that.
I know, but my question was very simple.
The problem is that I'm not giving the answer that.
Okay, it's just yes or no answer. There's just yes or no answers right now. Are you explicit?
Not yes or no answers. And respectfully, they're not.
Okay, so let me see if this is a yes or no answer.
Mm-hmm.
Are you giving an interpretation of something
right.
that is not explicitly written in the code?
Yes, as I have said, the code is interpretation does not provide for the hiring of subordinate employees beyond the city manager and the city attorney.
Right, but it's not prohibited.
I would say that it is prohibited because it is not expressly provided for.
But Rick Olivares in your firm could have a different interpretation.
Well, he has not shared that with me, and if I'm being asked to now poll the members of my firm, I suppose I could do that as well.
Well, no, I'm just getting transparent answers are really important because I don't think that council members should be given false, misleading information. Council members should be given honest, transparent information, both sides, multiple interpretations.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you a different question.
I apologize. My answers are perceived as not being honest,
well, they are. It's important to say my interpretation is.
And he has said that. He has said that several times.
Okay, but the code does not prohibit, so it's inaccurate to say the code prohibits council members. That's what Vice Mayor Mendoza said, and I asked the city attorney to clarify an innocent mistake.
I don't think he doesn't consider that an innocent mistake, and I don't either.
Well, the code does not explicitly, he said it multiple times now, the code does not explicitly.
If I could summarize perhaps the position is that your interpretation is that in any place where something is not expressly prohibited, it is implicitly allowed. Whereas I would simply say, if it is not expressly provided for, it is not allowed. I think our fundamental difference of interpretation rests there.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay, so we do have its interpretation. So again, it's not a law.
So
that's what needs to be clear. If a council member, like the vice mayor, wants to delegate her full authority as a council member to the city manager, she has that right to give her vote, her support, her full confidence to the city manager, as does the mayor, as do the other council members. I, as a council member, would like my opinion to be listened to for my brain and my thoughts and my critical thinking skills to not be left out of the table. Why do I
make yourself very clear?
Okay,
make yourself very, very clear.
And why do I believe that? Because I do believe that the process that has been established in San Fernando has been biased towards women, because 0 women have been hired as community development directors. I do believe that the process that has been established in the city of San Fernando has been inadequate and very unstable, because 15 directors have been hired in 8 years. 15 in 8 years. And I do believe that the process is biased because there is not a single person that lives in the city of San Fernando that is currently on these hiring committees or will be selected to be on these hiring committees. So my goal with the council, which you know, again, if you want to delegate your authority to the city manager, you have that right. Voters didn't elect me to delegate my authority. Voters elected me to ask questions and do the right thing and represent our voice. Okay, and part of that involves, you know, making sure that the council has a voice in as much as possible. All of this stuff that it's going to be politicized and it's not going to be, you know, it's going to be all whatever, that's not, those arguments make no sense, because as council members, we are involved in the hiring of many contractors whose positions are not even as important as the director of community development. We have shown that we can do our work. I know I can. I could do my work based on being objective, being fair, being transparent, being unbiased. And so again, I go back to wanting the council to have a voice that is a different voice, a voice that will give us different results than what we have had for the last 8 years. The process that has been established has not worked. If anybody says a process has worked, let me repeat it again, 15 directors in 8 years. That is providing inadequate services to the people of the city of San Fernando. That is not a process that works. 0 women as directors, that is not a process that works. These are just the facts. I wasn't around the last 8 years. I'm just looking at the facts. No bias on my part, just looking at the facts. So the one of the recommendations says have an ad hoc, right? And at least two people of the two members of the city council could be on the ad hoc and participate in the hiring. So I would like to make a motion to go with the recommendation to have at least 2 city council members participate in an ad hoc form in the hiring of our community development director.
You made a motion, and before I asked for a second, Vice Mayor had her hand up. She'd like to say something. And then I know, so Councilmember Rodriguez would also like to say something. Vice Mayor?
I just wanted to add that the residents voted me in to be their council member and to represent them. And my decision is based on what I feel is best for our community, our city, and our residents. And I feel that Mr. Kimball handling the interviews with his committee will make the best decision without politicizing the situation. That's all I wanted to add.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to mention I'm having some Wi-Fi issues, and when I turn off my camera, I can better hear you all without it breaking up. I do need some clarification, please. Mr. Padilla, if we create an ad hoc for this position, are we in any way required to do this for other positions?
As I stated, if you are considering the ad hoc route, what I would recommend first is that it be adopted as a policy that would be applicable to other positions, because as it's currently stated, or as the code is currently configured, there is no role, such a direct role for the council in the selection of the subordinate, like the economic development director. So what I would suggest is that at a minimum, you come back with a policy that kind of clearly delineates what the ground rules are for such participation, so that it is a fair process. It is a process as free of politicization as, or at least potential. I'm sorry for using the word politicization, because I think that's a very loaded term, but you know, one that is at least as fair as possible, as opposed to creating it in sort of the ad hoc fashion that might be considered tonight.
So if So there was a motion on the table, and I just want to understand, are you saying that one of the options outlined in this agenda and today is not actually okay by our city attorney? We would first need to take a step before we could consider that?
As I think Nick mentioned in his presentation, the ad hoc option would be one that we would recommend coming back with a full-blown policy that could be more clearly administered, so that it is clear what the relative responsibilities are for those who are members of the ad hoc, what the process for selection of the ad hoc is, and basically what the ad hoc's role is in the process. Now, again, it's already sort of pushing the envelope, I think, of what is sort of fits within the existing code. And I think it sort of opens up a larger question about whether or not the city manager form of government is something that the city wants to consider retaining. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess I would just make an amendment to the motion, right? That it included with it coming back, we understand how this impacts our entire form of government before we make a decision based on like one position right now versus like the entire way our city has been running since 2013. And also I think, I don't know if I'd attach it to this or I need to do it separately. Like, I think a lot of the points made today outlined that there are some challenges, specifically with the fact that there have been no residents of our city in these roles and there have been no women. I think we can all acknowledge that there's a room for improvement there. And so I'd be interested in hearing within that discussion, what would be done to support efforts for that. I know personally, I know a lot of this comes down to recruitment and who's actually applying for the position. So I know I personally forwarded this job description to like Latino organizations, women empowerment organizations, because I know that I want to see women in these positions. So that's the only way I could support that. But I do think that we as a council might need to consider a bigger diversity policy and how we are formally doing recruitment, because I think a lot of those things raised today are extremely important to address, both within this position, but also beyond, and how we're creating a pipeline through our own workforce in the city.
Well, I haven't spoken yet, but there is a motion on the table. Is there a second for that motion?
Mayor, do you mind if I address a few things?
Oh,
first?
please do.
Call for the second. I'm sorry. It's up to
Yeah,
you.
I just want to know we have a second and then we can continue the conversation.
I mean, I would accept Councilmember Rodriguez's amendments to accept the recommendation to have the ad hoc, and then yes, have a discussion on the city manager form of government. Absolutely, I would accept that amendment or addition to the motion.
Well, I don't hear a second, so the motion failed.
No, I'd be interested in seconding. Madam Mayor, are you not commenting on the item at all?
No, I am, but I wanted, since there was a motion on the floor, and I wanted to find out if there was a second, but I would like to comment. There's been a lot of discussion about the city, kind of the city administrator form of government and the city manager form of government, and some words about being the council member, being the control person, and delegating my authority to Nick. And I work in partnership with every one of the managers at City Hall, particularly Nick, and particularly with our city attorney. It is critical to have a partnership and to get to know each other and trust one another. I can tell you, because I'm the only one standing that went through that horrible period of city administrative form of government. And what did that give us? People that were sitting in director seats long-term, but weren't qualified. I asked Al Hernandez 3 times, the city administrator, and I worked on budget, so I had a sense. Are we close to bankruptcy? 3 times he said no. And I asked him at a council meeting each time. He said, no, we're doing great. We're doing fine. I think on the 4th time, and the audience was filled with employees, I said, are we close to bankruptcy? There was too much discussion about layoffs. That why are we talking about layoffs if we're doing so well? And the employees were coming to the meetings because they kept hearing the layoff language and the outsourcing to the sheriff's department. So finally, at the city council meeting, he admitted not only were we had our foot on bankruptcy, we were working paycheck to paycheck. The employees, thank God, were able to get their paycheck, but we were so close to bankruptcy. And the level of incompetence that was hired to this day infuriates me. We had, I'm not going to call these people up, but thank God they're not here. And we did not have diversity at the director level. I embraced diversity. And I pushed to have a city clerk position as a department head. The other thing is, because we had our foot on bankruptcy, the employees were impacted. And this is from the city administrator form of government. And by the way, a police chief was hired by 3 council members, acting police chief, by 3 council members who directed the city administrator not to share any information about that meeting with the other council member and I. That was the direction given to him. And he abided by that direction. That's very dangerous when you can have 3 council members dictate to the city administrator information you can share with other council members. Very, very upsetting. So of course, where are we at? We had to have Measure SF, and thank God it passed. I'm sorry, Measure A first, Measure SF. Have we had a turnover of managers? To begin with, we had a hard time recruiting considering what we had gone through in 2012. People did not have confidence in our city at all. And we went through a few managers, a few growing pains, but in Nick, thank God for him, because not only was there a problem in finance by the bankruptcy situation, money was used to pay the employee contribution for PERS out of the wrong bucket. I mean, how do you not manage that? And Nick was able to catch all of these things. Do I have great faith in him? He is a wonderful partner. I believe in him. And the city is doing really well because there's this great partnership and working together, and we all want the same thing for the city. You don't have to live in the city. How many employers do all their employees or directors live in the freaking city? They don't. They don't. I'm sure Councilmember Rodriguez doesn't live in the city of LA, and she works for the city hall. You have other council members, they don't work for the city that they live in, for a company for the city they live in. I could tell you that another mistake that was made back when, the management at the time that we had an opportunity to file for FEMA refund, they didn't follow through on it. The management we had at the time for the well, they didn't even use that money correctly, and we had to go out and redo the well because they just didn't know what they needed to do. We had so many problems, and it just, and here's the other thing, back when, we didn't, if you have your foot on bankruptcy, how much are you gonna offer? I'm not even gonna tell you how much Nick accepted when he came to our city. I'm just so grateful that he chose to come because he deserved a lot more than we offered to pay him. And I understand why he came, and I'm grateful that he came. And I'm never going to be so arrogant, community, that I alone can handle everything. I, the resident of 45 years, I know better than everybody else. I'm representing you. I'm representing you the best way I can represent you, with the best management I could provide, so we can work not solo, but as a team. And That's all I have to say on that.
Okay, so I'd like to call for the question on the motion.
Okay,
I agree, this motion is about working together, providing additional support to the city manager, the directors, this technical committee. Acknowledging that there was, in the last 8 years, bias towards women and a lot of high turnover with 15 directors in 8 years, that I want to set up a better process. And I want to set up a process that does include people from San Fernando and does include more of us working together. That's what this is about, that we work together as a council and we work together as, city manager and directors. Policies that the council makes, it's the council members, those that are around for the last, 8 years of the years that you were talking about, they're responsible for that mess. I just got on in November and I have a responsibility for the next 4 years. And, for as long as residents would like for me to be here, but at least the next 4 years. And in these next 4 years, I would like for us to set up a process that's fairer, that's more transparent, that has less bias, and that will actually get us to really work together, because we haven't included the voice of significant stakeholders, because the proof is in the results, and the results show that the process has been biased against women. And so I would like for us to vote on the motion that's on the table right now.
is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco is absent. Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
No.
and Mayor Ballin.
No. The motion fails.
All right.
Okay. And we
Okay, so
will
then
move
I'd
on.
I'd like to put another motion on the table.
Okay,
I'd like a process to be established where the city manager reports back on all the applicants, the questions of the technical advisory committee, the directors, the candidates' responses, and of course sharing the resumes and being very transparent in a closed session, because all of what happens in closed session obviously stays in closed session, and we're highly confidential on personnel issues. And before an offer is made, that the council goes through the process, so it's a transparent process. And then a decision can be made after the council is briefed in closed session with all those details at minimum provided.
is there a second?
I'd like to amend. If you'll take it, otherwise I could just.
Yes, oh yes, definitely. I like amendments that make it better.
Well, so I'd like to, I proposed this in my initial comments. I think there is an enhanced number 3 that was offered, where we would be, where Nick, you'd be soliciting a formal survey, where after you receive the responses of our survey, we could understand how that's incorporated into the evaluation of candidates, as well as seeing the responses from the technical advisory panel after that phase of the applicant period, just for enhanced transparency.
Yes, I would accept that amendment.
And just to, would that include the names of the applicants and their resumes, or would that simply be, and I just want to clarify, Councilmember, what your amendment would be. Are you simply saying it would be like option 3, however, you would have, we would share the rating sheets anonymously about, what the folks, the applicants' names were and resumes, but you receive the rating sheets, how the questions were scored by each of the technical rating panel, or would it be also including resumes of the applicants in that identifying information for the applicants?
Would the rubric provided to the panel allow them to rank parts of the resume when it talks about like what skill sets they have, or is it based solely on the interview that they have?
Typically, it's based solely on the interview, but the questions are such that they would be asking questions about technical response. They would be asking questions about someone's experience in creating, special plans that, for tech. I'll just give you an example. Their experience in working on transit-oriented development or long-term economic development visioning, programs, and exactly what they've done as part of that. That's typically what the questions would be like. And if obviously we have control over that. So if there are specific questions that are desired, obviously those can be included.
So, I mean, I would defer the questions to you, again, in hopes that if you're soliciting our feedback through the survey, you would incorporate that into the questions. I think to kind of avoid the fact, like this idea of like transcribing responses to questions, receiving the resume, I think would be helpful if it's, if you believe it's less biased, if like the name is redacted, I think that'd be fine to have like a blind understanding of where each of these candidates are landing on the ranking of skill sets. So that
I think we didn't hear.
We didn't hear your last sentence.
Right.
oh, my last sentence was that enough clarity?
Yeah,
for
no,
what
I'm just trying to marriage Mary Councilmember Montanez's motion to sort of your amendment, because there are certain parts that are a little at odds. I just want to make sure that we have a clear motion that's sort of on the table, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, I would be okay with names being redacted, but we would still know their positions, their existing experience, I guess, right? So their resumes, but without the name of the person, if somehow, I mean, I feel okay with knowing names of individuals because we're all professionals and we probably don't know the individuals, or if we do know the individuals, that's sometimes is a good thing to be able to bring in, background. But redacting the names, I'm okay with the redaction of the names.
Or I would propose anything that would make their identity readily identifiable. I think obviously if they listed the city they were in or the title they were in, it'd be pretty easy to figure out who they were.
So are we
So
good
I
to
think
go
in the
with the
hiring process, at least hiring processes that I've been part of, you only can have the information that's provided to you. So you're not allowed to go Google people or whatever. So if the information is provided that this person is such and such position in a city, it's provided to you. That's just a fact. That's just a fact that shouldn't be redacted. You don't have the ability to go out and start bringing in information from the outside. It's just what the applicant has provided in his or her resume, cover letter, references, and and answers and responses. Like that's the only information that gets taken into consideration to ensure that everyone has the same information.
Okay, so state the motion again with a friendly amendment, Councilmember Montanez.
Okay, so essentially we would have the city manager provide an update in closed session. So again, all this happens in closed session, respecting the personnel process to the entire council on the candidates, the technical advisory committee answers or interviews, so the responses to the questions asked there, as well as the interview responses provided in the director's interview. And then the final recommendation prior to the offer being made, that would come back to the council so that we have the ability to look at, be part of the entire process. So at every council meeting or closed session, there would be an update provided by the city manager based on the process of where we are with the hiring. And again, with personal names redacted.
If I may, Madam Mayor, One thing
Yes.
I would just advise, if that were to go forward, again, the only way we get into closed session to discuss this is by way of a city manager evaluation, which means that the direction given by the council has to be kind of couched in a way where it is offering guidance to the city manager on the objectives and larger goals of the council. The council will have to be careful to resist the temptation to basically be making a call on individuals. And of course, if we can keep the identities of individuals confidential, I think that'll go a long way towards doing it. But it has to be couched in terms of city manager, in order, we expect you to here is the benchmark for discharging your duty to select a competent economic development director that is reflective of our priorities and values. And here's the guidance. And based on what you've told us, here are the qualities that have stood out to us from the applicants. And here are things we would like you to consider or give greater weight to. So I would just simply caution that any closed session in that regard be handled in that way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I'm fine with that. So it would be the ongoing item would be city manager evaluation on the closed session item or closed session agenda.
City clerk, roll call, please.
Okay. Do we have a confirmation? Councilmember Rodriguez, are you seconding the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, roll call. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, he is absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
No,
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
no,
No. And Mayor Ballin.
No. The motion fails.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we have at least one report back to the city council before the hiring or before an offer is made to the final community development director.
Is there a second?
What would the process be anyway? Because in our closed session, I feel like we've been provided updates on this hire. So would something be different?
Number of candidates, that applied, the candidates that were interviewed, the names of the people that were in the technical advisory committee, the names of the individuals on this directors, and the reasoning why this candidate excelled as opposed to like the other candidates. Simple.
Understood. I second the motion.
Okay. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco is absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
no,
Mayor Ballin.
No.
Okay, so if I could have, if the mayor and the vice mayor would like to delegate all their authority to the city manager, that's fine. But if you would allow those of us that would like to be part of the process in the meeting, which would be, Councilmember Rodriguez and myself, to be part of the hiring process, then I would ask for that professional respect.
If
So I
that's
would
a-
like to make a motion that council members who are interested in being part of the community development director search, that they be allowed by the majority council to participate in the process.
Is there a second?
My amendment to the motion is that it be limited to what was just recommended in the previous motion, that we
Yeah.
get the baseline updates of who's involved in the selection process so that we are taking steps to increase transparency, but not interfere with the normal process.
So, Madam Councilwoman Rodriguez, if I may, so is your amendment basically the restatement of the prior motion? Is that correct?
And limiting it to the council members that are interested, if it's more appropriate to do it in an ad hoc as opposed to closed session with the whole council, we could do that. So I'm supporting the motion. I'm just adding the parameters that it's not that we're interfering in the process. It's only that we're asking for additional transparency in the process. And with that, I second the motion.
Roll call.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco is absent. Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
No.
Mayor Ballin,
I work as a team. I work in a partnership with the city manager, as I've said. By not agreeing to this does not mean I don't care. And that those that voted yes do care. I know what my constituents want. They want me to represent them and they trust me. And my vote is no. And I haven't even talked about the terrible turnover we had at the police department because of 3 council members, the majority. I worry about that kind of a majority. So I'm not inclined. If Nick was not a competent, well-educated city manager, I wouldn't have a problem. But he has shown his competence, his devotion to the city, his leadership skills. And I don't think we could have gone through this pandemic with some of the past city administrators. They would have fallen apart at the seams. So I'm a no on that. If you want to make another motion, Councilmember Montanez.
I think the record will speak for itself. We had at least 4 motions, something very simple of transparency, and again, council members that are very competent. I've don't know all the council members, but the more that I get to know the council members, I think that there are, competent council members that are highly capable and do represent this community and the voice of the community, and whose perspectives I find to be very valuable and can really help work together as a team. It's not teamwork when you exclude people. We are willing to do the work, and we want to be very transparent. We want to be part of the process. And I do have a concern when a majority does silence the voice of those us willing to do the work. We want to work. We want to be involved. We want to make sure that we are working together as a team. This is not an evaluation at this moment of the city manager. This is just a discussion about the process. This is not an evaluation of council members in the past who are no longer with the council. This is a discussion of what has happened in the last 8 years with hiring that, again, the record is clear, has been biased. And I do not support a biased process. And I do not support a process where the end result excludes women and has turnover that is absolutely against the interest of the people of San Fernando. I support a process that's transparent, and I support council members who are willing to do the work, whether I agree with their perspectives or not. I commend, those that are willing to do the work. And I think, fine, every council member can act differently. If council members are choosing to delegate their authority to the city manager, you have a voice at the table. I don't have a voice at the table. I'm not hearing that Councilmember Rodriguez has a voice at the table. We are willing to do the work, and I don't see any harm whatsoever by having the council involved in the hiring of one of the most important positions for our city. And so I'm disappointed and do not feel supported by the majority council when all we are trying to do is help hire and make the city a better place. So I offer, again, everything that I can, and the record, I think, will speak for itself, that, the council doesn't make sense. Why would the council exclude themselves from doing the responsibility? I mean, in the past has nothing to do with the present, and the past that does matter is the last 8 years. And the last 8 years have shown instability that has put us in a worse situation, because every single
It has not. We could not have had our foot on bankruptcy
today.
with
We have less
absolute
police officers
incompetence.
than we've ever had.
No, no, we're doing well.
We have less police officers on the street. We have less public works directors. We have cut our way out of this problem. Yes, there's a balanced budget. Anybody could balance a budget and have reserves when you cut the most critical services. We've cut police. We have cut public works. We have cut community development. And that's not.
And we had a pandemic. Yeah, we had a pandemic too.
Okay.
But it's time for us to move on. The vote was taken. We've discussed the agenda item. And now we're on agenda item number.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please do.
I just want to say that first, in no way do I think that by entrusting Nick in this process, are we abdicating any of our authority or responsibility. I have faith in him and the process. I was very supportive during this discussion, though, to take steps to increase transparency in the process without interfering with it. And I think
we're losing you.
I just want to be clear.
We're losing you.
Maybe if I cut off
Yes.
my camera, you
okay.
can hear me. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want. It's just that I want to make sure, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor, I in no way do I want to make offense by saying that, you know, with our form of government, we're somehow like not properly representing our city. But I do think that there was an opportunity in our discussion today to take steps to make it more transparent how this process happens, knowing that there are clearly opportunities to improve it. And that we do have an opportunity to make it better. My disappointment right now is just, I feel in this topic, in this discussion, we weren't able to meet in any halfway. And I think if we come to these meetings already deciding where we stand without willing to discuss it and work together, it's going to make our work together over the next few years really challenging. So I hope in the future we do better about finding a medium, or at least trying things together so that we can just make everything better overall together as a council. And that's my only comment.
And I do agree with you on that, but when council members come and say, I care, but you don't care. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, in option 2, we do have the ability of letting Mr. Kimball know of the characteristics and attributes that we're looking for in the city planner. Or you can say you're looking for someone that lives in San Fernando. You'd like someone to live in the city of San Fernando. We don't know if any of the applicants live in the city. You're looking for a woman, let him know this, you know, that you want him to focus in hiring a woman. If there's questions that we need to ask that we'd like to have asked, we can forward those questions to Mr. Kimball, and there we can have that voice. His decision will be, to me, that he will make the decision which questions he's going to ask based on our contributions or whatever we let him know we're interested in. I think there is still the ability of us to voice what our needs are and what are the needs of our residents. And I do care as well. I do care. And that's why I voted as I did, because I believe that I have faith in Mr. Kimball and the process. And as I said, I've also interviewed many people, and it's not a process that we've done. All interviews are confidential. These are personnel issues that have to be addressed, and anything can go wrong when you involve other people other than the process during the process of an interview or the interviewing committee. And I think we may even open ourselves up for potential litigation if something just didn't go right with the interview process. So that's the reason I'm sticking with my that we continue as with a city manager form of government. I don't wish to pursue anything in an administrative form of government, and that's where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, and now we are on item 6.
Mayor, do you mind? I'm sorry, I just want to.
Go ahead.
Quick
Go ahead.
statement. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure all council members continue to know that, I mean, even through the process as it exists, I welcome feedback on the policy, because you know, council members have been elected and given the authority to make policy. I welcome feedback from each and every council member on what their policy interests are, especially related to this position. And I would like to, you know, really point out that if you look at how this job was announced, was posted, we specifically targeted, and just this is, I mean, I wanted to expressly show council how this, I'm taking their feedback, and that we posted it specifically in 3 different groups that target, you know, women in this profession. So, and our applicant pool reflects that. So I do want to continue to welcome city council's feedback on the important characteristics and the type of person that they that each council member feels would be the best type of person in that role for the next, you know, for the next community.
How many, question on that, how many people are on the technical committee?
I haven't formed it yet. I was waiting for this discussion. I need to start looking out. Usually,
Can you ensure that there's no less than 50% women on of everyone that that the candidates will be interviewing with, that there's no less than 50% of those interviewers that are women?
I will target as many women as possible to be on that rating panel. Clearly, they need to agree, needs to fit into their schedule. I will prioritize women in the field to be on that technical panel that I can do.
We have to have, because we won't have it with directors. We don't have a single female director. So I appreciate you.
You have Julia. I want to keep over Julia.
Yeah, but I appreciate you trying to understand the perspective of women, but it's important to have women hiring, because we have had 0 in 8 years.
Now we are going to move on to item 6, consideration to accept a donation of a security camera from the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club to be installed at Rudyard Senior Park. And at this time, I am going to sign off.
Person that they, that each council member feels is the best type of person in that role.
Nick, I think there's a sound loop going.
Dr. Suarez, if you can turn off your.
How many people are on the technical committee?
Turn off your YouTube, please. I haven't formed anything for this. Muted her for a minute until.
Okay. Again, we're on item 6, and the vice mayor is going to be taking over. I have a personal situation that I have to tend to immediately, and I'll see you all at the next council meeting. And I really appreciated today's council meeting. I appreciate that we're able to be very direct and honest with one another and walk away with professionalism. So with that, my respect to each of you.
This is the checkers game.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, would you like me to move forward with the next
Yes,
item?
Mr. Kimball, could you introduce item 6?
Thank you. Dr. Suarez, can you hear us? Are you with us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I'm going to go ahead and play the video that you had shared earlier, and then you can make your statements. So give me a minute while I set this up. Can everyone see my screen right now?
The grandson and granddad will bond.
Can everyone see my screen and hear the audio?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. That was the video for the camera that has been so generously.
Welcome. This video will show you how to use the multi-directional plus PTZ camera PNM 9320.
Okay, sorry about that. That will be donated by the Rotary Club San Fernando. So Dr. Suarez is the president of the Rotary Club. So we wanted to give her an opportunity to say a few words about the proposed donation. I think you're on mute, Dr. Suarez. There you go. You can close the YouTube.
Dr. Suarez, if you could shut your video.
So Dr. Suarez. Please, Dr. Suarez, if you can close the YouTube window. We can't hear you, sorry. That was the video for the camera that has been so generously.
I think her YouTube.
This video will show you how to use the multi-directional plus
Let me turn this on.
PTZ camera PNM 9320.
Okay, sorry about that. That will be donated by the Rotary
Dr.
Club.
Suarez,
Can you turn off? Can you close the window for YouTube? That's on a delay, and just listen through Zoom. So we wanted to give her an opportunity to say a few words about the proposed donation. I think you're on mute, Dr. Suarez. There you go. Can you put?
Would it be possible to call her on a separate line and maybe walk her through?
Dr. Suarez, if you could shut your video.
Julia, can you put her in the waiting room for a second and then put her back in and see if the audio controls work?
Yes.
How about that?
I mean, I would just like to say in the meantime, thank you. I mean, I think this is wonderful. Dr. Suarez, I know you're having these technical difficulties, but she'll see us on YouTube later since there's a delay. But I mean, really, to the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club, yay, and also the San Fernando Satellite Club, yay. Also, thank you very much to Dr. Suarez and everybody that's a member. I think this is wonderful to be able to get these types of security cameras that we need. I know security cameras aren't perfect. It's sometimes hard, but to really track it and for police departments to use the actual footage. But they definitely serve as great deterrences, and this one seems to obviously have a really good zoom. So I think it's just really generous and just wonderful, and we do need it, and it'd be wonderful to be at Rudyard Park because it's a beautiful place that we want to make sure gets protected to avoid anybody being there when they shouldn't be there after hours, or graffiti or any kind of other activity that damages the park. So thank you. While she's reconnecting, I just want to take the time to say thank you to her and everybody that's part of the Rotary Club and the Satellite Club.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, of course, I just join in extending my thanks. It's a wonderful gift for the city of San Fernando, and we're just so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The Rotary Club works really hard in providing service to the community, and one of their 5 achievements is to support the community, and they're very proud of what they've done in contributing to the city of San Fernando. Dr. Suarez has worked very hard, really wanted to be a part of this meeting. She's been waiting since 6 p.m. to be let in.
She has two things, she.
I think Julia.
Nick, you guys we can hear your conversation, Nick and Julia.
Let's see.
Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes, well, Nick, so we'll continue to move forward, or is she ready?
We're gonna try it again with Dr. Suarez. We let one of her accounts in. She was signed in twice. Dr. Suarez, can you hear us? If you can't, oh, I see you're unmuted. Can you?
No, but I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm connecting with my cell phone and my laptop. I need to get the connection through the laptop.
Actually, if you can just make statements now, we can hear you. We can hear you fine. There were difficulties when you had your laptop connected as well.
Yeah. Oh, but I prefer to connect with my laptop so I can see you guys.
Okay. Just make sure you have YouTube closed. Otherwise, there's feedback.
No, yes. Sorry, no. YouTube was not open in the laptop.
So Julia, can you try to let in the other?
One of them.
Thank you.
Very proud of what they've done in contributing to the city of San Fernando.
Dr. Suarez, you need to turn off. You need to close YouTube.
Since 6
the window that has YouTube open, you need to close it.
Two things.
She can, please.
I don't have YouTube open.
Nick, you guys we can hear your conversation, Nick and Julia.
It's like Back to the Future.
Madam Vice Mayor. Scott.
Nick, so Dr. Suarez, or is she ready?
We're going to try. So Ms. Suarez, I think we can only.
Dr. Suarez, huh?
Yeah, Dr. Suarez, if you can just speak now. I muted your video, but we can hear you through your phone. So go ahead and talk to us through your phone.
Okay. No, I didn't have a video on at all. I don't know where it came from, so sorry.
Okay. Well, go ahead and make your statement. Thank you.
Okay, I just started off too. This is not a very good beginning. Thank you very much. I wanted to know, since I know you guys are tired, you have been here for so long, and I wanted to find out how this is the suitable for everybody to pay attention and stay on, because I don't want to talk to how many minutes is allowed.
We typically do about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, if that's appropriate. If you can.
There's flexibility at this point. This is a presentation, so the floor is yours now, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I just wanted to basically go over the history of the camera, but it's really the history of the Rotary Club in the city of San Fernando. And as you know my name, and I am the president of the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club. And I am part of the 5280 district, and the current City of San Fernando Satellite Club and the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club are part of the 5280 district and Rotary International. And as an outreach of Rotary, at the beginning of the year, members were given the option to seek members through different types of clubs. And there are different types of clubs in Rotary. I'm going to tell you briefly. There are regular clubs that have 25 members or more, like my club, the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club. There is cost-based clubs that the membership is very different. They have a minimum of 25 as well. It's based on a cause they want to work on. Like we have one in this that was open this year is against to fight sex trafficking. And we have people who go from club to club. Those are the ambassador clubs. And we have the satellite clubs, which are small clubs that have 8 to 10 members to begin with. And they are made, the members come from the community. And there are people who want to work in the community who wants to be active and to make the community better, like Rotary wants to make the community better. That's the idea behind all of this. And every person in that meeting raised their hands and they came up with ideas about what type of club they would like to start. And me, I like the idea of satellite club, even though I wasn't even familiar with what a satellite club was. And I wanted a satellite club in the city of San Fernando because for some reason, the city of San Fernando is very close to my heart. We used to have a Rotary club in San Fernando. It was very, actually, we had multiple members. And I said, let's go back to San Fernando, which is a very traditional, a classical city full of all these small businesses and the people who are so great and have been so great to meet. Like I started with Mary Mendoza and Julian Venegas, and then I continued to with the President Rudy Ortega. And I have, well, of course, a dentist. I have a director of membership in a health insurance company. I have a registered nurse. I have my 10 people already. But the way to approach San Fernando was to hands-on, to share work and work with the members of the club. And it has been a great experience. I started with Julian, who has been great. Julian and I have been working close to the city of San Fernando, who have been working very close in this camera project. He has been very instrumental. He has guided me along. He's like a teacher for me. And we have gone through a lot of in and out. Mary, Mary Mendoza has been very helpful as well. And she has been a very consequent, she has a very good attendance to our club. So so far we have participated in 3 projects before even this year ends. We have the first project that was initiated by Mary that she recommended. There was a company that was donating school supplies, and they were for them to pick them up. And okay, I said, let's go. And she helped me with the people who were going to pick up the school supplies. And they helped me. They were so generous. They came, they brought the school supplies to my house. And we got a donation. Apparently the market price of the donation was about $8,000. And those supplies were distributed to the Salvation Army, the Kidney Quest Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club of Pacoima. And we actually finished a project, and that was about 4 hours. And it was all done in one day. And it was generated by a member of the club in the city of San Fernando, Mary Mendoza. Then I contacted Julian, and I started having conversation with him, and he was very instrumental. And together we decided what to do for the city that was reachable, that was achievable, that was affordable, and found out about this, the camera, she gave me all the parks in San Fernando, and I went through one by one. And I didn't go to the Rudy Ortega, but I went to the other one because I wanted to do a project, but it was not something that it was reachable this year. So then he gave me a list, and we decided, I said, okay, let's upgrade the security system of this park, which is so interesting because it's a theme park. It exalts the indigenous, tradition. And I thought, okay, this is perfect. This is a theme park. It has a security system. Let's upgrade it. And I wanted to do that, the whole upgrade. Of course, no. The only thing we could do was the camera. The camera can be connected to the current system, and it'll be actually the purpose of the camera is to increase safety, to make at least some of the city of San Fernando safer. And the camera has multiple capabilities that you can see, depending on where it has been installed, of course. But the camera is a great camera. It's a very upgraded camera, and it has been a pleasure to work in this project. And the third project that we are doing with the Boys and Girls Club of the San Fernando Valley, which is formerly the Boys and Girls Club of Pacoima, this is a great project too. They want to build a racetrack for remote control cars. For the family to enjoy. Those are like the toy cars, remote control cars, and they want to build a racetrack on the grounds of the Boys and Girls Club. And that is going to be like a center for the kids to enjoy, for the families to meet. for people, for the kids to learn, because there are opportunities to connect even with NASCAR through this project that has been especially designed for the Boys and Girls Club of San Fernando. And that's the second, the project, the first project that was actually awarded a grant was the Rudy Ortega Park, Senior Park, and the upgrade of the security system. The second project that was, this was created especially as a consequence of the city, the satellite club being formed and having members in San Fernando. And we got a special grant of $2,000 that is going to be used for the Boys and Girls Club to build this racetrack. The racetrack is only $8,000, but we have $4,000 already, $2,000 that were previously they had, and then the additional $2,000 that we actually are going to be awarded to this district grant. So we had 2 district grants, we have 3 projects. We have great plans for San Fernando. And I wanted to just come here today to meet everybody. And I know you're all tired, and I think this is not a controversial topic, I guess. I hope it's not. And it's a pleasure to being able to connect with the people of the city of San Fernando and to do something for the people of San Fernando, and to be able to accomplish both projects. All of this we have done, at least since we started. We started last year, but it has been in less than a year. And it has been really, really a pleasure to be able to do this and to place the city of San Fernando in the map in Rotary. And somehow, as we see what we can do. There are other plans for the following year, but they'll be when we're not the president. This is my years of president, and that's why it's has been so great and rewarding for me. And I thank you. Okay, I don't know how long it will take, but I hope that the point.
Thank you, Dr. Suarez. Thank you so much. And I know Councilmember Montañez already said a few things, and you know, her gratitude for your contribution from the Rotary. Did you want to add anything else, anyone, now that she can hear you?
Well, I mean, now that you can hear us, but you'll go back on the YouTube and you'll see the comments. I mean, we're grateful to the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club and you and Satellite Club, everything that you just said. Thank you. The cameras will be put to good use, and it's at a wonderful park. So we just appreciate the generous gift, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Same, yes. We just expressed our thanks so much for everything you all are doing for the residents of the city of San Fernando. We gratefully accept this gift.
Thank you, Dr. Suarez, and to the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Club, and also the Granada Hills Rotary Club also donated toward this, the camera, which is.
Yeah, the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Foundation. The district grant came from 3 sources: the District 5280, the Greater Van Nuys Rotary Foundation, and the Granada Hills Club. But the major contribution was from the District 5280.
Thank you. Thank you. So do we have a motion?
Yes, a motion to accept this wonderful and generous gift.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, he is absent. Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
and Mayor Rowland is absent. And the motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Suarez.
Thank you very much.
So item 7, consideration to approve an access agreement with 1100 Truman Street LLC for one-way access into city-owned parking lot number 5. Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm going to pass it over to Public Works Director Matt Baumgardner to give the presentation on this item.
Good evening, Council. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to have a visual of the area in question that we're looking at. As you'll see, as my cursor is over parking lot 5 and the adjacent Chipotle lot is right here. Essentially in 2015, staff came to City Council, presented a conceptual plans for various improvements to Lot 5, including new paving, lighting, some landscaping improvements, trash enclosure improvements, as well as an opening from the adjacent Chipotle lot over into Lot 5. At that time, council was supportive of the conceptual plan. At that time, there was no funding, and there has been no funding for this project. However, they did direct staff to come back at a future date when there was funding to discuss the improvements at Lot 5, and also if there were to be any opening for circulation between the two lots, that the costs for doing that work would be borne by the adjacent property. Back in September of 2020, the property owner did approach the city and asked if we would take a look at the circulation between the two lots. We've had discussions since that time and have worked on an access agreement between the two lots. And I'm going to share a couple of other screens that kind of discuss sort of the traffic circulation and safety challenges, and as well as the work that's going to be done as part of this access agreement. So I am going to, can everybody see this new overhead showing some yellow lines?
No, we still see the Google Maps.
Okay.
I think you might need to stop sharing and then reshare.
Stop share and then reshare. Okay, thank you. There we go. How about now? Okay, great. So just kind of showing you again, the two lots. The area that's hatched over here is a parking lot, city parking lot 5. And here is the Chipotle Center lot. The first, I'm just going to go through some traffic challenges within the Chipotle Center lot. When customers are trying to gain access behind the AT&T Wingstop building here, if you come to a dead end here, you can't get through. And if there's no spots here, which is quite common, these vehicles need to back out in a blind condition, where they will encounter vehicles that are in area 2 that are also backing out, and it's very difficult for them to see each other. So there's that first kind of traffic challenge and condition that we are trying to address by opening these two lots for circulation. The other condition that we're looking at is right now, if you were to exit out of the Chipotle Center between the two buildings, where I'm showing IDA here, it's 120 feet to the intersection with Maclay. So there's very little time to get into this queue going towards the east. Also, if you are looking to get into this left turn pocket to go north, it's very challenging to get into that situation. So you're entering in, it's increasing the driver's behavior to perhaps kind of make a quick cut in front of traffic to get into either the eastbound or northbound onto Maclay. So again, by opening up the lots, there's the opportunity for exits from different points. So by opening the lot, there's the opportunity for you to exit out here to the first exit ramp, which is 250 feet to Maclay. So now you have twice as long to make a decision and get into traffic. Or you can come over here and you have 375 feet to Maclay. And you have much more time to get into this queue here going eastbound, or to come in and go northbound on Maclay. The other traffic condition that I've observed many times as I've gone out and walked around the area is for westbound traffic on Truman Street here, where they come right about here and they make an illegal left turn across the double yellow line and cut in front of oncoming traffic on Truman Street to get into parking lot 5. There really is there's no legal way to get into it from the westbound. So right now, what you have to do from a legal standpoint is to actually come all the way to San Fernando Road and come all the way out to Mission and come in to the right here. So that you have to kind of do this long loop. And I assume that's why many people that are going westbound dare to make this illegal left turn here. So this is another condition that helps by opening up the lot. And instead of going westbound on Truman, you can actually come in behind the Chipotle and enter in through the lot, the Chipotle lot, and come through this opening and enter in the lot that way. So it's much easier to circulate into parking lot 5 and avoid this more dangerous condition here where you have to make an illegal left to get in. I am going to show you very quickly, stop share, and show you the, let's see. Can you see the new plan here that shows the proposed conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Over here, you'll see these are the existing conditions right now. We have 6 parking spots along the property line between the Chipotle Center lot and parking lot 5. The property owner is proposing to remove an opening here wide enough to provide access, one-way access into the city parking lot 5. In order to do so, we would lose 2 parking spots. We would be losing this spot here, as well as the one that's directly in front of the opening that's proposed. And this shows the new condition here with 4 spots instead of 6 spots, but does clearly show with new directional sign, both on the Chipotle lot, as well as an arrow that shows as you enter in, how to enter in the lot and circulate around the lot if you're going to be accessing lot 5 or exiting out onto Truman Street. We did speak with the Mall Association last week about the project, and we actually received some very good feedback that the property owner was able to include in their proposal, which was to also add a new asphalt speed bump here between the 2 locations. So if there was any inclination for somebody to be trying to speed through the lot and enter into lot 5 in a speedy manner, we now have a deterrent to that movement onto City Lot 5, also making this this whole proposed circulation between the 2 lots much safer. So essentially, this is what we're looking at. Again, the city views this as improving traffic circulation, entrance onto Truman Street in a safer fashion, also giving right now, it is quite difficult. It can be quite difficult to pull into the Chipotle lot and access the parking. And we believe that many people do come over into parking lot 5. So there's a greater likelihood with easier circulation that people will actually use some of the spots that are not easily accessible within Chipotle Center. And this would potentially open up a few more spots that are being used because it's too difficult to park over there. So there are several advantages, and we believe that this access agreement creates less traffic challenges, better circulation, and better access for both lots. And at that, I will stop share and open up to any questions that council might have.
Councilmember Montañez.
I appreciate the thinking on this, Matt. Like, I know that I've been in those situations and I've had people complain a lot about getting stuck when you go to that back corner that doesn't have access, and has created safety issues. So I appreciate the approach to really trying to address those safety issues, and then being able to actually go into ultimately lot 5 off of McClay, because it is hard to get to that parking lot. So this at least allows us to get through from McClay through the back of the Chipotle lot into lot 5 in a safer way. I think many people, residents, have been victims of, sorry, chief, making that left turn illegally to not have to go all the way around. So, and it's dangerous because, as you were saying, pointing out the distance between the lights on Mission and McClay, you know, if you're not further back, it does create, it's impossible. You know, although people make that left turn, it's really hard to do. So I appreciate the thinking on this. You know, and so what I wasn't clear, did you say we're losing parking spots?
Yes, we would be losing 2 spots in order to create that opening. Instead of having 6 spots along there, we would have 4 spots along there.
Okay, and then can the public park in the lot that is the Chipotle lot, or it's only for customers?
I believe that's only for customers. But as we were saying, as I was indicating earlier, we believe that there are probably a few cars that are parking over in parking lot 5 that will be more likely to park in the Chipotle lot, because now it's easier to move around and exit out of through parking lot 5. So I believe there's probably going to be a kind of a net zero balance, just sort of with existing conditions right now, and being a more likelihood that people that are customers in the Chipotle lot to park in that Chipotle lot, because it'll be easier to exit out.
Okay, yeah, you're right, because those spots in the back are sometimes, those are the ones that are most likely to be empty, because it's just hard to get in there and get out. Okay, I don't have any other questions at this moment.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yeah, this has been, I know, considered over many, many years. And I definitely am supportive of anything that increases safety and the experience of our business patrons, and especially if it has the blessing of the businesses in the area. I do have 2 specific questions, though, about some of the solutions you pointed out that this creates around signage. I don't know if you'd be able to put back up the Google slide that you have with each section that has a letter.
Sure.
But yeah, and I can talk through. So one of the things you mentioned was just if someone is exiting between, let's see, in area A, yes. I'm sorry, area 2 identified as A, yes. When they make that right, they don't have a lot of space, and that's caused some problems. Does that mean that will be an entrance only driveway?
No, it'll still be an option out of there. I just feel that, I mean, we wouldn't limit that option. We're just trying to create more options instead of having, you know, there might be certain times of day where it's very easy to exit out of A. So we're trying to, like in those busier times of day, I think the cars that are parked here in area 2 during the busy time of day may choose to come out through the open area now and exit out either at the area that I marked as C or the area that I marked as D, depending on how busy traffic is there on Truman Street.
Understood. So like the additional options will increase,
yes.
Like that behavior, which defaults in more safety. Okay. My other question is, I do think it's important and a good value add that in area E or driveway E, it presents an opportunity to the public to access the public parking lot. Will there be signage there so that people who are traveling understand that that is an option?
We hadn't considered that, but we can certainly look at maybe some sort of wayfinding that could point to that easier access to lot 5.
Yeah, I think that's important because that I think is an opportunity for all the businesses there, right? If this is increasing parking there for people to go visit and shop, it would be important to actually see that that's an option.
Sure.
To cut all the way through to the lot. So I guess, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't want to, we'll need to work through what signage would look like, because we just don't want to give the impression that the private lot is actually public parking. So we'd have to be, we'll have to look through what that might look like. I get the directional signage pointing people toward the public parking. We would need to make sure that it was clear that you'd have to go through the private lot to get to the public parking. So we can work through that.
Yeah, and potentially that means an additional sign at the entrance of the public lot. So when someone turns in, they can see they need to go further for it. I just think kind of to the question about A as well, right? If the value add is that it goes all the way through, then it should actually be a clear option for people. Thanks. That concludes.
Thank you. Can we remove the, well, no, maybe you can leave it. But, I do like this project and I'm glad that it's come forward. And I was at the council meeting when it was brought forward for the first time. And there are some, I did get speak with a resident who had some questions regarding the project. And if this, is it possible for us to request unionized labor to do this project? Is that a possibility that this could be incorporated in there?
Nick, did you want to?
No, I mean, that.
I mean, it's an arm's length deal. I mean, we could always suggest that, but I think at the end of the day, if that becomes cost prohibitive for the property owner, it may kind of disincentivize the deal. But I mean, I suppose it can never hurt to ask. But I don't know that we can compel.
And I do know it's a relatively small dollar value project. Typically, you usually have a minimum, $50,000 or something, where you would have over that minimum would be some sort of prevailing wage or unionized labor. This is really just it's a pretty small, relatively small project, so it may not pencil out, but we can certainly ask that be considered.
Yeah, so long as we're paying, I guess, also prevailing wage is also important. And then there was also a concern regarding the traffic. There's going to be some there going to be like wrong way signs not to exit through Maclay? Will there be signage on that as well?
Let me bring up the
because the concern is the traffic and how it flows, and that people don't follow directions sometimes. We don't see the sign and we go out the wrong way. And this is the one on Maclay, right?
Oh, so as you're coming and turning into the Chipotle lot?
That's going to be an exit as well, did you say?
I believe right now it is both an entrance and exit. So
will it be both entrance and exit?
Yeah, that wouldn't change. It would just be that now you could continue through and enter lot 5. So it wouldn't just be an entrance only.
Okay, and same thing on that where you went through right at the end. Will they be able to go out from the parking lot, the city parking lot, out onto Maclay?
Yes. So in either one of these exit ramps, currently you're able to turn out onto Truman Street and access Maclay either to the right or to the left. So that condition would continue in this situation.
All right, and I'm assuming that you look at any traffic issues or mitigation that could potentially occur, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think by giving these options, we're actually allowing vehicles to not have to enter in such a rushed, frame of mind where they have to get in here very quickly, especially trying to get over to this left turn pocket, which I imagine a lot of people probably do go north on Maclay from here. So, and I have witnessed some quite erratic driving behavior out of this particular exit here. So I do believe that plays into the mind of people when they have very little time especially on a very busy street. So the options here to come out where I've marked C or D is the same condition you have if you're just in lot 5. Now you're affording that to the vehicles that are customers that are parked in the Chipotle lot can now come in and access these two safer options, what I believe to be safer options onto Truman Street.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions on this or comments? Do we have a motion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I can motion to approve the project.
We have a second?
I'll second. Sorry, it took me a little bit of time to unmute. So I'll second that.
Roll call.
Councilmember, excuse me, Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, he is absent. Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
Mayor Ballin. I'm sorry, she is absent currently. The motion passes.
The motion passes. We're now on item number 8, presentation and update regarding COVID-19 response efforts. Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will go through a verbal update. We had been doing PowerPoints, but with conditions significantly improving as they are, I want to continue to give these updates, but they'll be a little more focused, mostly on the blueprint and on the vaccination effort. So just real quickly, in the county update last week, they indicated that they expect that tomorrow we will be entering the yellow tier, or be authorized to enter the yellow tier. And then they indicated that if that is in fact, every Tuesday is when the state updates those tier assignments. The yellow tier is the lowest. It's signifying a minimal impact of COVID-19. So if we do enter that, are authorized to enter that tier tomorrow, the county indicated that by Friday they would have updated health officer orders implementing those, that the yellow tier increasing of restrictions. Most of those restrictions are increasing indoor capacity at retail, restaurants, movie theaters, bars, personal care facilities, gyms, etc. So that would be good news if we do in fact enter that tomorrow. Looking at the data that's come out over the last week, I would be I don't see any reason that we wouldn't be entering that tier tomorrow. So so we'll continue to update our website and provide any updates when we do get that new health officer order. Again, hopefully by this weekend, there'll be additional capacity allowed at some of our indoor staff businesses in town. As it relates to vaccine, I just wanted to go over a few of the vaccination efforts, local vaccination efforts that happened over the last week and a half or so. On April 24th, St. Ferdinand's vaccination clinic and vaccinated approximately 112, administered about 112 vaccinations. Last week on Wednesday of last week, LA Care and USC did provide some vaccinations at the swap meet. I have not heard back as to how many they ultimately provided. They did have the Johnson & Johnson that they were giving out, and it was right after the pause was lifted. So I can imagine that there were a few challenges with getting all of their spots filled. But when I hear back on how many they were able to administer, I will provide that information to council. On those same days, April 28th, 29th, Santa Rosa also provided vaccinations, and they were able to administer about 320 vaccinations over those 2 days. Last Thursday, there was a clinic at Las Palmas Park where we were giving second doses only as a follow-up to one of our first doses, and 102 individuals became fully vaccinated. This past weekend, Kidney Quest Foundation provided more than 300 vaccinations over the weekend, with 100 of those being first dose vaccinations on first and second. We also had a pretty large IBEW hosted a larger vaccination mobile clinic. I'm not aware of how many people that they were able to vaccinate, but they are hosting another one coming up in a week or so. I'll get to that in a minute. So I'll reach out to see if they can provide some data on how many vaccinations they were able to provide at their last clinic. As of April 18th, so just about 2 weeks ago, which is the last time this data was updated by the county, there were about just under 8,000 San Fernando residents that have received at least one dose of the vaccine. That represents 41% of our over 18 population. So we want to continue to trend upwards. Each 2 weeks over the last reporting periods, we've had about 2,000 new individuals receive doses. So we want to hopefully that trend continues, and we'll continue to get information out to our community, which I would like to encourage everybody that they go and check our website specifically for local vaccination opportunities. This is our www.sfcity.org/coronavirus. And as soon as you go to the page, you can see the upcoming opportunities that are local. Again, you can see IBEW has a clinic coming up on May 15th, Kidneys Quest, May 22nd and May 23rd, Santa Rosa, May 26th. And then San Fernando Park always remains an option for the Moderna vaccine. So again, we have a number of options here and links to the sites to sign up. We also have on our community calendar, if you just from the homepage, just click on city calendar here, and all of those sites I just talked about should be on our calendar. You can see a bunch of the upcoming ones. We'll be working on adding all of the May opportunities shortly. So anyway, so that's the best place for local vaccination options. And that is, I believe, all I wanted to provide is by way of update for this COVID response. And I'm here for any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Councilmember Montañez.
Thank you again for all the work. And then, deep gratitude to all the providers that have come in. I mean, it's just wonderful in such a small city, right? For us to be able to have so many providers, some are longer term, some are pop-ups, but they're all really important. So Nick, I know that's been a lot of coordination. And I've said it before that, we all as residents really appreciate that work because now it's a lot easier to get the vaccine in San Fernando. If you want the vaccine, you could get it because there are a lot of options. The only issue I think now is trying to figure out, we're at 41%. So as you said, close to 8,000. We have the goal in our strategic goals to try to get to 75% by December 31st at the end of the year. So being able to work with either, or maybe you could find out, is it UCLA or USC or Northeast Valley Health Corporation, someone to help us figure out like why some people are hesitating and how we begin to figure out why, is it still a lack of knowledge that these are going on? So do we do more community outreach to targeted areas or demographics? I don't know what it is, right? There could be multiple reasons why folks are not, because I think the number of vaccines that have been offered in San Fernando could have already covered everybody in the city. So that's the only thing I would say is like to look now. The future question is, how do we get those that haven't gotten vaccinated to feel that they have us, right, as a city, helping them by calling. If they can't get online, we will help you. If there are concerns, then maybe some of the healthcare professionals, the universities especially that do research, can help us figure out, address those concerns of why people hesitate. That would be the only thing. But thank you for getting the vaccines in town. San Fernando, I think, is probably one of the areas that has probably greatest saturation in terms of vaccine availability. So I think that, we've turned that around. Now we got to get people to go out and get it so that we could be high up in the numbers. I mean, cities like Santa Monica, you look at their numbers and they're, probably getting close to 60%. And they have a larger population. So I think that we can get to our numbers or should figure out how we get our numbers to be, to reach that 75% goal as soon as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback and just wanted to provide some information. We are actually working with Stanford Health, actually, who we were put in contact with through you, actually. Thank you, Councilmember Montanez. And they do have a lot of messaging that's targeted at certain audiences that may be a little bit hesitant to get the vaccine. We actually, through a very astute comment by Councilmember Rodriguez last week on our at the county call, asking for a listing of all of the local nonprofits that are receiving state funding to do outreach. We've been working closely with Pacoima Beautiful, but there are other entities again, that have a very close connection with certain populations. And so we do have that listing and want to start creating some of those partnerships. Again, maximizing those number of people that people are comfortable talking to about getting the vaccine. So yeah, I agree. We're kind of shifting our efforts on all the different organizations we can work with to get the message out to people that may be a little distrustful of government, or whatever might be the hold up. Maybe we can work through other trusted sources. Particularly, I think the churches have been a really great asset. The faith-based organizations, Santa Rosa, St. Ferdinand's. There's a few coming up. Knights of Columbus is coming up, I think, in June. So we have a number. We're continuing to work with all those organizations. So thank you. We'll continue on that path.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Yes, very effective. The calls that Proclaim It Beautiful has made to residents have been really effective. I know that has come back. I'm sure all of us have heard people say, oh, we got a call. Sometimes they don't know who it came from, and others do know. And so we're grateful to all the callers that are working with us, Proclaim It Beautiful, and other partners that are helping get the word out. So thank you for all the efforts again, and for working with these very sophisticated partners, right, that know how to do this kind of research to help us break down whatever barriers may still exist.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
I'm really excited that we're at 40%, just based on where we were not so long ago. I just agree with everything. I think I'd like to think we're well on our way to the 75 goal. And I'm really happy we have so many partnerships in place. And to your point, Nick, we're going to get the list of everyone so that we can help them coordinate with between each other. Because I think what we've learned in this process is, even though the resources have been allocated to increase information, especially with an equity lens for vaccines, without coordination, it can only go so far. So I'm really grateful to all the partners who have been willing to help and have been willing to coordinate with us. It's all very exciting. Kind of to your point, Cindy, I also want to acknowledge our own Rec and Park staff have been making phone calls. So just a really big shout out and thank you to them for helping be our liaison to Proclaim It Beautiful and just all of the work you've done. With that, I think we've seen, right, with social media and the calendar on our website, we're reaching a lot of people who are online and connected. Through our strong church networks, we're reaching people who are part of those informal networks. The in-between is that sweet spot where that connection, Councilmember Montañez, that you've made with Stanford is going to be really helpful. I think one of the things that I've learned is that, the door knockers can work, but it needs to be a little more often. Just the one time might not resonate, but I think the stats show if it's 3 times, then they'll finally get the message, right? They'll see it and read it and call the number. So I just recommend that we continue that effort. I also wanted to mention, if you could look into it, Nick, some people actually in my side of the neighborhood reported they didn't receive that first door knocker. And, I'm in the more dense part of the community on the side of the tracks that hasn't historically gotten the most love. So I just want to make sure that the area around me does get included when those walkers drop off those door knockers. The only other question I have is actually around some of our COVID relief efforts. I was wondering if it's been decided what's going to happen with the remaining food from the food program, and also an update on the business program, because I know there was going to be an event in April, and I'm just wondering, now we're in May, what the plan is for that as well, and whether or not we expect any remaining funds that we need to be discussing.
Sure. With for those CDBG funds, I'll defer to Julian on the food events. With regards to getting out the final few boxes for the PPE, the business PPE, we do have all of them allocated. It's just a matter of getting them delivered. So that's they're not a whole lot. It's just getting them delivered out. So we're working through those logistics. Julian, if you want to provide the final on the food, the final event that we're going to have, I think the other, just before you go, Julian, so those CDBG funds, those particular coronavirus funds will be pretty much exhausted. However, we do have, and I believe we just scheduled the COVID relief ad hoc, which was approved, I believe, at the last council meeting. That will be, and that's yourself, Councilman Rodriguez, and then Councilman Pacheco, that will be continuing to work with staff to identify programs, through the American Rescue, Plan, as well as moving forward the program through CDBG that was approved by council earlier this year. So those efforts are still those are at the infancy. We still have a lot to do on those. It's really just that small amount of coronavirus funds that we got about a year ago that we're just winding down. But Julian, if you can give an update on the residential food program.
Yes, we are going to have one final food distribution on May 15th. The application process will be ending, I believe, tomorrow. For the final and sixth round of the food, we are winding down. We didn't have as much participation. The last registration period, we only had 35 additional families. And I don't know the exact number for this final round, but we are winding down. We had around $4,000 left. So the last distribution will include food only and not PPEs. So that way we'll have plenty of food distribution. We could give more bang for our buck on providing the food. So that's going to happen on Saturday, May 15th at Las Palmas from 9 to 11.
Thank you. Would you be able to add in those last and final boxes a list of the vaccination sites and dates coming up and the phone number they could call?
Definitely. We'll definitely add that. We did the last two distributions, we had a information packet that we gave out to everybody's, but that's one definitely a flyer that we would add that adds all the distribution of the vaccines.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members, and your input. It's just great, and we're moving the city forward and it getting hopefully get a handle on this pandemic much sooner. I do have one thing I'd like to ask, and I've been in conversations with the Kidney Quest Foundation director, Carolyn Urquidez, and she has, I guess she has signed a contract with the LA County to have the user site every 21 days. But because she's not a paid employee of the foundation, and the funding would have to come out of foundation funds to provide a restroom and a sink. She's having difficulties with that. And I'm here and I'm asking if council would consider that the city provide her with a restroom and a sink for her location. She'll be conducting them till the sites till next year, sometime around June. But it all varies depending on how the situation goes. But she is very interested in seeing San Fernando residents being vaccinated and reaching out to people. And, I wanted to say, because it is a burden, she can't have them use her office restroom because that's where her clients go, use the facilities. She has files and other clients and other things. And that's where the facility that the LA County uses to have their breaks or their food, and it's laid out there. So it's kind of difficult. And it's not a big area where people can just kind of go in all, throughout the day that are getting vaccinated. So it would be providing her with a restroom, a portable restroom and a sink. It's about $200 for the 2 days, I guess, because she usually has 2 days on her event until next year, maybe July, maybe less than that. It all depends. Total of about maybe $3,000. I've asked Mr. Kimball, but then, we'd have to approve it through council. So I'm just asking because it is on private property. And I'd like to see if council would be interested in supporting her site, vaccine site. So I have that. And then I think that we also need to step up the efforts on educating the community so that they are getting vaccinated. Many times I've had people heard of people, they sign up and then someone somehow convinces them not to go in and get the vaccine. And we need to get some of those myths out that are out there floating around as to why they're not, why they shouldn't get it. But I think educating the public is something that's very important. And just thanking all those that are supporting our city with their vaccine sites. It's making a big difference in our community. So, Mr. Kimball, so how do we need a motion, or how is this so council members can consider those restrooms?
I think we may need to re-agendize it if they are expenditure items, Nick.
So it's within the city manager's authority. It'd only be about $3,000. So I don't necessarily need a council appropriation, but I did want to make sure that council was comfortable with that. I do want to mention in the past, the residential food programs, council has been supportive of, waiving sort of the fees for those if they're COVID related. I do feel like this is in kind of that same vein in supporting the vaccination effort. I just wanted to make sure that council is aware and comfortable with that, being that it's on private property. However, Kidney Quest obviously is a nonprofit, medical provider. And they also, this would be only in support of their vaccination efforts. So as long as there wasn't any objection from city council, I don't have a problem moving forward with it administratively. I just want to give the opportunity to have, the discussion.
Councilmember Montañez?
I'm fine with whatever, everything that makes it easy and safe and healthy for people to get their vaccine and not delay it.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez?
I definitely agree. I have two questions though. One is this not available through the county? And if not, is it a place where maybe we should be advocating so that as people do bring these vaccination sites online, that's something available? Because clearly it's needed and in line with the effort of, cleanliness and getting people out there.
So from what I understand, and Vice Mayor Mendoza, you can add to this. From what I understand, the county does award kind of small grants to some of these mobile clinics that are ongoing. And I do believe they were approved for a few $1,000s, not very much, but I believe it was like a $5,000 grant. They're using a lot of that on like supplies and things like that over the next year. So in that, I think it will take a few months for that to be processed. So that was, one of the items. The idea is there probably will be a number of vaccination clinics before that does get processed and they actually start getting reimbursed. So the county does, again, they give very small grants. They don't directly hire they don't directly give out porta potties or other facilities through their mobile vaccination clinics, but they will give small grants to operate those to nonprofits.
So will this expense be reimbursed?
I can work more closely with them if there's an opportunity that they can eventually take this over from the city when they start getting funding. That would be sort of the first question I would have for them and make sure that that's kind of the primary. It's kind of getting to that point where they start getting that grant reimbursement that I think that they kind of need some help with for the next couple months. So, but if that's, if the desire is to kind of be the bridge until they do start getting that funding in, assuming it can pay for a porta potty, then, that we can definitely do that.
Yeah, I would be interested in doing it that way. And I mention it because I imagine, we're going to continue to support more and more of these sites coming online. And I don't know, and you can let us know what our capacity is to support everyone in this way. And obviously we wouldn't want to, only do it once or for a couple and not for all. And so I think if we look at it more of if it is a reimbursable expense that we're able to support people as a bridge until then, absolutely. And for anyone who needs it.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. And obviously we're always looking at a case-by-case basis. Most of the time, these are at facilities that do have, a better availability of restrooms, IBW headquarters, for example, or Las Palmas Park. Obviously those sites all have restroom facilities available. So this, this is kind of this seems to be a relatively unique situation. But yeah, noted, and that's part of the reason I wanted to make sure I got some feedback from city councils, because I do understand, whatever we do for one, one entity, we do need to make sure that we have that consideration for others as well. Again, I think this is unique in this particular request because of the lack of restroom facilities available, at that particular facility because of the constraints.
Yes, and this last, she had her vaccine site this weekend and only had the restroom because she couldn't afford having a sink, which was, I think she paid $129 for the portable restroom, and then it would have been $200 to have the sink. So she did it without the sink and had the sanitizer there for people to use, but they do use the restroom. And she is a volunteer for the foundation. She is doing this on her own time. She's not a paid employee. And like I said, she's really interested in getting the residents vaccinated. And it's also trying to protect, her clients who have renal disease, are on dialysis, or waiting for kidney transplants, or kidney transplant patients. So, thank you very much for this consideration. And I know she will be very appreciative, whatever we give her. And it does take a while for those funds from the county to come in. So I know she plans to apply, and I think she's already submitted some application, but unfortunately, it takes a while.
Yeah, understood. Thank you for raising this, Mary. So Nick, you don't need a motion or anything? You just need a direction?
No, direction sounds like, funding as a bridge, and then assist with, potential reimbursement from the county if that's ready.
Thank you. So now, let me see, where's my agenda here?
Staff communications.
All right, staff communication, including commission updates. Mr. Kimball?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let's start with Julian with Parks and Recreation Community Service updates.
Good. Yes. Hello. Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. Well, I have 2 points. One we already talked about, which was the food program on May 15th. The other one is the Park Wellness and Recreation Commission will be meeting on May the 11th. One item that is of particular interest, they'll be reviewing the first mural application. Then they, make a decision whether to approve the application or not. But that is the item that is of interest for the next meeting. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Diego, finance updates.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. The proposed 2021 22 budget is on the city's website. We will begin budget sessions on May 17th. And if you have any questions, please reach out. That's all I've got.
And we will be delivering a hard copy of the budget to each of you tomorrow. And also the city manager's report message will also be part of that, which is sort of an executive summary. So a hard copy will be coming to you tomorrow. We should get those all printed.
How many pages do we get, Diego?
About 300.
Oh, thank you. Look forward to reading it.
That's why the executive summary is very important on the budget. Matt, anything from Public Works?
Yeah, just a couple of quick updates. As far as our efforts with tree planting, over the last month, we've had 2 events through our partnership with Tree People, where we've planted roughly 25 new trees. Over this last weekend, we had 12 trees that were planted, and we had Rudy Ortega and Mark Villaseñor from Fernandino, Tatavian Band of Mission Indians come out and bless those oaks. And we had participation from the residents in helping plant those trees in the parkway. And we also, last week at Rec Park on Arbor Day, we planted 3 trees at the recreation park. And in the fall, we'll be looking to plant an additional 180 trees on 4th and 5th Street, both sides of 4th and 5th Street, also through the Calles Verdes project with Tree People. And just very quickly, we are moving along with our Safe and Active Streets project, and we will be sort of advertising out to the community for any interest from residents, business owners, what have you, in terms of participating in walk audits or biking audits, where they have an opportunity to either do about a 1 to 1.5 mile loop on a walk or a 3-mile loop on a bike, and provide some input on existing conditions or improvements they would like to see in terms of safety and promoting easier walking and biking through the city. So we will be reaching out and advertising this over the next couple weeks. And those audits are actually going to start next week and continue through the first week of June. So we'll be looking for a lot of community input on this data gathering portion of the project as well. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Matt. Julia, any city clerk updates?
Yes, thank you. The Education Commission issued a press release today announcing the names of the 12 students that are being awarded scholarship funds. The Commission's planning a drive-through celebration honoring these students on May 20th. And event details are still being planned out. We're actually calling a Education Commission special meeting on May 11th at 4 p.m. So if you would like to participate, please join us May 11th at 4 p.m. Also, May 17th is a big day here in the City Clerk's Department. There is someone coming aboard. I won't say any names yet, so just know that somebody has finally accepted and is coming aboard May 17th. That's it from the City Clerk's office.
Thank you, Julia. Chief, anything from the police department?
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. I have nothing for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And then finally, just the only update I have is that we do plan to return to council chambers in person on May 17th. And I will email out a plan to all city council members later this week on what that might look like. So if all goes well, the next time we see you for an official meeting, we will be in the city council chambers. I still don't know that we'll have a full public viewing inside the council chambers, but at least the five council members should be able to participate from the council chambers. So look for that plan later on this week. And I think that concludes any staff comments.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Councilmember Montañez.
So in going back to just regular council meetings, I mean, I could disclose, I mean, I'm fully vaccinated and it's been more than 2 weeks. So I feel comfortable with that. But I also want to be respectful of anybody else, like a council member or a department director or city staff that doesn't feel comfortable yet, that I'm okay with people continuing to participate on Zoom until there's a full comfort level. I know some people are still at risk or different reasons. So I look forward to going back with respect if anybody can't be there for own personal health reasons. So that'll be exciting. Look forward to meeting some people in person for the first time. So I'll be the tall one. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. The other thing I want to say, it's been really great to work on the Safe and Active Streets Ad Hoc Committee. So we heard from Matt just the exciting now parts of actually taking that into the community and getting feedback. So we do encourage everybody to give us as much feedback, especially if you bike or walk in the city, or if you know of dangerous intersections, that we want to hear people's input. I think our consultant Carlos has done a fantastic job. Matt, you and him have really done an incredible job in like getting down into details of possible proposals, right? And selecting what ultimately, like which 8 areas or streets we will design. But that's important. Again, the Safe and Active Streets is to make our streets exactly that, safer and then more active. So to encourage people to get involved as the notices come out for when these audits or these walking opportunities to go with our team, walk around the town and give us suggestions on how we can make the streets like safer and more active. I also want to thank Nick for the letter that was sent up to the Archdiocese for St. Fernand's. I think that was a well-written letter and showed the support of the council and the city, in support of the parents and the families and those that want to keep St. Fernand's still as a school, very much needed school that we need in the community. So I believe that letter, did that letter go out today? Okay, so that letter, that's good. Okay, so that letter went out today. Appreciate it. The work on that. And then the last thing is I was just going to make a recommendation on the recovery, the COVID ad hoc committee and the recovery ad hoc, for what we're calling it now. I would say if the committee can start looking at, I don't know if it's going to be an outside consultant or how we position the city to be able to provide the information for businesses to be able to apply for the loans and the funding and the grants that are going to be coming down at the federal and state level. So not to be discussed right now, but if that could just be something that ad hoc begins to look at. So we formalize some type of process to get, as soon as possible, get that professional technical assistance into the city so that people know where they can come to get that funding. There's a lot of funds available. So I think it's wonderful to see what the federal level, what the federal government and what the state government are doing to get money directly into the community. There weren't a lot of businesses from San Fernando that applied for the PPP loans last time around, the payroll protection loans that are now being forgiven. So hopefully this time around we'll get more, but we have heard obviously from those that did apply and are now having their loans forgiven, that it's just, it makes a huge difference in them being able to keep their doors open. So we want to be able to keep as many doors open as possible here in San Fernando. That's it. I don't have anything else. Thank you everybody for, the discussion today and for being open to like listening to each other. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. Yes, first, thank you, Matt and Council Member Montañez for bringing up Safe and Active Streets. We hope everyone can be engaged with that process. It's going to be really exciting for the city. In regards to the COVID ad hoc, I've requested a meeting for that, and I believe Julie was able to set it today. I just haven't seen what date it was set for. So thank you to her and you, Nick. Absolutely, Councilman Montañez, that's definitely part of it. I do want to mention though that the funds that council decided to use for that technical assistance and grants for businesses, and then the residential program, don't come into effect until July 1. It's part of the next program year. So I just want to manage expectations. Definitely, we need to work on it so it's all set up and ready to go July 1, but it won't be available before then just because of the funding source for those programs. I just want to say thank you. I personally have reached out to a lot of staff in the past couple of weeks and had chats with Julian and Viro and Matt and Julia's been making sure I have everything I need for the meeting too. So I just want to extend my thanks to all the work all of you always do. I really appreciate it, especially as a New York Councilwoman. The opportunity to ask you questions and to tap into your expertise is really helpful, and for preparing for meetings and moving things forward. And with that, he's not going to watch this because he's taking care of our baby, but I got to thank my partner, Robert, for holding it down at home while I do these meetings. I hear Alba crying sometimes and I feel so bad I can't help. And I know that you, Mr. Padilla, have a baby too. So just thank you to all the partners and the families who wait for us very late for these meetings. And that's all from me.
Thank you. So thank you, Nick, for the great news on possibly coming back on May 17th. I'm looking forward to that. And just so everyone knows, I'm fully vaccinated. And I'm pretty sure that the mayor will be really happy to get back to in-person meetings. So, whatever we decide or is decided on the 17th, and I'm ready for whatever it is, whether it be Zoom or in person.
Uh-oh, I think we lost the vice mayor. Are you frozen, Vice Mayor? Well, at least she made it this far. I
Yeah,
guess
we probably do need to get her back though, because I think
quorum to adjourn.
we've lost our quorum if we don't have her technically on the line.
Let me call her real quick, and then we'll get her back on.
So I was trying to see if I could text her too.
Diego, are the budget workshops, those are public meetings, right?
Yes, they should be.
Can you tell us those dates again?
Yes, we've got them on May 17th, 24th, and June 2nd. They're scheduled for now.
Okay. So May 17th, so we might do that one in person.
Yes.
Okay.
We have very dynamic budget meeting.
Yeah. 300 pages.
Yeah.
Well, I have my reading to do. I mean, thanks to all the directors for the work that you have put into that. And I understand that the strategic goals were taken into consideration.
Yes,
So,
everyone was very collaborative in putting
Yeah.
their goals together and tying into the council's long term. So it was very good.
I don't want to presume to know how it's going with Nick, but I have a feeling this may get complicated. So I don't know if folks would be prepared to just adjourn the meeting if we can't get her. Well, actually, I guess here's Nick. Nick, you're muted.
Her Wi-Fi went down, so she's actually going to be dialing in. I just had to give her the dial-in number, so she should be dialing in momentarily because she really wanted to adjourn in the memory of
Got it.
Sergeant First Class Donald Strickland. She didn't want to miss that, so she's calling.
No worries. We just sit tight here and how about those Dodgers?
how great UCLA did in their basketball season.
Oh, congrats. Yeah, definitely.
I still can't get over it. It was such a good year. But
Did
the
you win?
Dodgers, yay, maybe we'll have another amazing year.
This is how out of touch I am with college basketball. Did UCLA win the tournament?
No, but you know,
They went farther than expected. The one year I ever won an
like the last second, literally, where we were ahead and boom, they make it 3-pointers. I was like, oh man, it was brutal loss, but it was a fun game to watch.
Oh, I just got to give her the number again quickly. So,
sorry, that's my dog.
I mean, I guess technically though, Rich, like if there's a lack of quorum, the meeting ends.
Yeah. So I mean, I want to be respectful of holding on for her, but I also just think the longer we're on, the longer we might start talking about stuff we probably shouldn't, since we don't technically have a meeting going.
Right. Yeah. Right now we're just waiting. Right. We don't want to have any business discussion.
Right. And
yeah, until she joins.
This. I guess if we can't get her on, maybe at the very least we could just, the last thing we say is just we're adjourning in honor of the gentleman that Nick referenced if it doesn't work.
I'm okay hanging on if
yeah.
you want to be part of it. I'm okay hanging on.
Yeah. I think we got her. Vice Mayor, is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we can resume with the meeting now. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Apologies. Okay, my apologies, everyone. My my Wi-Fi disconnected for some reason. I'm not sure. But we're at the point of closing. And did you hear that I was vaccinated? That I was fully vaccinated?
Yes, that was the last thing we heard before your Wi-Fi
okay.
went out on you.
All right. And then Councilmember Montañez wanted to close the meeting in memory of Mr. Strickland's father. Councilmember Montañez.
Yeah, so at this moment, then we'll adjourn in honor of one of America's veterans, heroes, people that were just courageous and putting their life on the line. And again, he was almost 87 years old. On May 31st, he would have been 87. And it's just great. He went to San Fernando Valley High when that's what it was called. And, had lived in the Valley. And we are forever grateful to Donald Keith Strickland. And we adjourn in his memory. And we will definitely remember his legacy as we do all those that have fought for our country. And so in memory of Donald Keith Strickland, we adjourn today's meeting.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
This